Happy Saturday night. What's up, everybody? I want to say thank you to Skittles, Kevin, Cape Kitty for hopping up on panel earlier. Did that read through about 2.5 hours. Very interesting stuff that we read through. A couple questions I have. I was talking with Suzanne Andrews this afternoon, and I got some exciting news. She's going to be on the show sometime. She might hop in tonight. I told her to hop in if she would like. But sometime this week, coming up, we're going to have Suzanne back on the show. And I just want to have her back on because I want her to be able to be highlighted a little bit more than what she has not been. If you catch my drift, everybody, you all know what I'm saying. So I would like to really, once we get the details, and like I said, she might even hop in tonight, I don't know. But once I get the details, I'll let you guys know, and we definitely need to show her all the love that she deserves because I don't know, it's just not right. I feel it's just not right that her kind heart and her spirit and her efforts and her sacrifice and her dedication is not being appreciated. It's not being highlighted. It's not being noticed. These are all things I feel. Not being noticed. It's I don't know. I feel like when all of these names are being mentioned, like EB, attorneys, the family, different podcasts, different people, different groups, you never hear about Suzanne. You never hear about her. You only hear about her because we highlight her. Every time we talk about Stephen Smith's case, we highlight her. I'm still sharing that hate crime bill. But I'm just, whenever you see these tweets out there and you see these press releases and you see all these interviews and stuff, and it's just like, why is Suzanne not getting the love she deserves? So it's just not cool. I've noticed it for a while, that's why I've been highlighting her every time too. and it's just messed up. So whenever we get the details, uh, definitely show up and show some love, please. Cause and this ain't her saying none of this. This is me, and y'all know I mean it because every show we talk about, I always say it. Every show. It's just she's not being included, and I see it, and I see it happening, and I I I see it all playing out. I've been seeing it all play out. And it's just not cool. It's just not cool. She's amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and share her Twitter. And if you're not following her on Twitter, please show her some love because this is messed up. So we'll go ahead and shut down the scanner. And I'm going to go ahead and share this. So if you're on Twitter and you're not following her, please hit the follow, retweet her tweets, show this woman some love. All right, we'll get to chat. Let me throw up my little ticker at the bottom. If you'd like to hop in, you're more than welcome. Give me 1 second here. Go ahead and open up panel. And I'll get to your comments. I just wanted to say that when I got on tonight. But I have some good news. The hate crime bill just passed the Senate subcommittee this last week. So we're moving on. We're getting there. It's about to happen. Fingers crossed. But this is her Twitter. Definitely show some love there. All right, I'll throw out that link. Is Kevin Kraft in the building? So he needs to hop up. If anybody else would like to hop up, you're more than welcome. I'm going to get to your chats now. Uh-oh, where'd my comments go? Yeah, if you ever want to watch our interview, I'll throw the link up in chat and you can save it to your playlist. Just a beautiful, beautiful person, beautiful soul. And I can't wait to have her back on whenever. When I figure out the details, when we get it figured out, I'll let you know. Any night is a night that I don't even care if I'm supposed to have it off. This is Suzanne. She deserves it. Fourth comment. What's up, Jinx? What's up, Kid Kitty Skittles? That is such a cool picture. I like that. Jinx. Hey, Jinx. I apologize. I read Silky Southern Tea's email wrong. And she was saying, I thought she was saying Monday, but she was actually saying Tuesday. Is Tuesday okay? Let me know if Tuesday's okay, Jinx. Sorry about that. That's my mistake. I misread it. Good evening, SRB. Oh, everybody's getting storms still? What's up, Pam? Yeah, it's Saturday night. We're going to be talking theories and thoughts. I'd like to hear your theories. I'm going to tell you mine. We're going to watch some videos here in the beginning. A couple videos, Court TV, a couple things that came out. And then we're going to kind of get into that. Just chit-chat, you know? Just chit-chat. Shop 2 Saturdays in a row. Lucky you. I want to go shopping. Yeah, everybody was having issues. I'm glad everybody's okay. Saw Allison Faye in earlier this afternoon, so I know she's okay. What's up, Pam? Thank you, everybody, for hopping in. Beer, it's in the sink. Did it? Stay. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Sorry for everybody that lost power, and yeah, it was crazy. There was so many. Glad everyone's safe. It hit the good. Oh wow. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. I hope everybody's doing good. My husband loves the savings, but would never admit something was a reset. Shoot, I don't mind saying I got something. Why not? You saved money, you know. I told her. I said, Suzanne. Everybody on the show knows that you're not appreciated. I was saying this. I was saying, I know that you don't get the love you deserve. It's upsetting. And anytime you'd like to come back on, and I said, I just want to focus on you, your efforts, your accomplishments. I want to highlight you because you're not being highlighted enough, and it's upsetting. Yeah, it's true. She's a special person. And I don't appreciate when special people don't get treated the way they should. Exactly. And yes, Suzanne, if you are watching, we appreciate the hell out of you. It is unfair. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that, Pam. Hey, Butterfly Kisses. How are you doing this evening? Cool little sunflower. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope she's okay. I think some storms went through PA, right? Yeah, I'm here. Let me drop Punksy's link in the chat. 1 second. Now, SRB, you were saying the link didn't work. I checked it and it took me right to Punksy's page. So I'm not sure, but this link was working for me. Thank you, Skittles. I appreciate that. I'm almost ready down through the chat here. Thanks for subbing and joining. Appreciate you. Even if you'd like to hop up, you're more than welcome. We're going to have open panel theories and thoughts when it comes to what we think took place. We had a read through earlier this afternoon of the full MAIT report, and there's some interesting stuff in there, and I have some things jotted down, and I have some questions. There is the link to the interview that we had with Suzanne Andrews. And like I said, when we get the details figured out, I'll be putting out an early notification so you all know. It's whatever night she wants. Tuesday is cool. All right, Jinx. Sorry about that. That was my misread. And definitely go back and check out the show from a couple nights ago when Jinx was on and she was talking to us about the Flora Fire. We're going to be learning more about that. I'm going to be having Silky Southern Tea, Jinx, an open panel, and anybody else that is informed on the subject. I'm totally down for some knowledge, and I appreciate people taking their time to share their knowledge with me. Definitely appreciate it. I appreciate that, Jinx. What did I just say? I love I want to do some garage sales and golf. My husband got up from snoozing through. Oh, jeez. Tornado touchdown now. Oh, well, I'm glad you're okay, Butterfly Kisses. Thank you again for hopping in. Yeah, there was tornadoes everywhere touching down. Jeez, I saw a lot of the damage on the TV today. It was crazy. $85 million so far, I think. 40 some deaths. Yeah, and if you're into the paranormal, definitely sub to Punksy. I'll be hopping on Punksy's channel at some point whenever she would like to have me on. I just touched down on the East Coast around 7 p.m. or so. Oh, wow. It's still happening, huh? Just type in Punksy in the search bar. If that link don't work, just type in Punksy in the search bar, and then you'll see the with the boots with the white shoestrings, and that's the one. Good evening, Duck and Felonies. You've been putting out some videos too. I've just been so focused on different cases here, but definitely check out Duck and Felonies channel. Give me 1 second. I got the link here. I have so many of them. Let me see 1 second here. It might be on an old edit. 1 second here. Here's that. If you want to click and sub real quick. I like the voiceovers too. Really cool. Appreciate you making the content and the effort and the hard work, Duck and Felonies. It's not the right link for any of us, no? Yeah, just search Punksy and you'll see the boots. Here I'll search it real quick and then I'll just drop that in there. Okay, so here's this. Just type in Punksy in the chat bar, and this is the Punksy right here. It's got the clip with the boots and the white shoestrings. So I'll go ahead and click on this, and then I'll just put this in the chat, and hopefully that link will work. If not, just go ahead and search Punksy, and this is the one that you need to sub to. Sorry it's not working. I'm not sure why. I'm doing good. Hopefully you're doing good as well. Your channel is great and you promote friends. Oh, thank you, Jinx. No, I'm just I appreciate that. The world, it just needs more peace. Peace and love, you know? That's why I always put peace and love on my messages. It's just peace and love. Not close to me yet. That's so weird. The link doesn't go. I'm not sure why. I just copied it from what I'm screen sharing. The link. Does she show up if you type Punksy? And then this page show up? Because when I type Punksy, it shows up like this. Your life as a documentary paranormal investigator. I will be sharing paranormal investigations. Well, hopefully it'll work. I just searched her on YouTube and found her. Okay. Yeah, if you type it, it shows up, but not by the link. Yeah, and if you notice, if you look at your link on your browser, it'll show the actual Punksy with a period, like I put in chat. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I thought it was weird when you said that to me the other day. I thought that was weird when you said that to me, SRB. I was like, Because then after the show, I went and checked. I was like, well, maybe I have an old link. Because, sometimes they change their handles or whatever. So I was like, well, maybe I have an old link. I need to update it or whatever. And I went to click on it and I copied and pasted. And I was like, well, it's the same link. What's going on? I don't know. I heard YouTube's being weird. I know she reached out to me a few days ago and said that her YouTube, I don't know, something happened with her YouTube or something. Something got reset or something. I use software for my voiceover. Oh, so that I was wondering. I was like, so that's got to be her, but how is she doing that voice? That is so cool. Huh. I think that'd be kind of neat. If you want to email me, Duck and Felonies, what kind of software you use, let me know. I might try that out sometime. I definitely need to make some smaller videos and stuff. But Clipchamp, okay. But as far as I know, overtime's over starting on Monday. So if overtime's over, I'm definitely going to be having a lot more time in between work and the show. So I'll definitely have a lot of time to do a lot of different things, maybe even them short videos before I go live each night or something. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Clipchamp. Very cool. Very cool content, Duncan. Thank you so much for your hard work and effort. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw the link up in chat again if you'd like to hop up. We're going to sit back, watch a couple videos that I have prepared, and then we're going to chit-chat a little bit about what I read in the full report. A couple interesting things, a few interesting things. I definitely have some questions, but we'll get into that in a little bit. All right, so we're going to go into this video first here, and we might touch on this at the end of the show. Fitz News. I do enjoy Fitz News, and I appreciate them. This is Court TV, and this is from 2 days ago, where they revisit the Stephen Smith crime scene. Let me turn down the music real quick. Hey, what's up, Allison? Thank you for hopping in. Turn down the music a little bit. I'll hop up on top. And we'll get into this first video. Thanks for hopping in. Appreciate you hanging out. More than welcome to join the panel. Just
Court TV is on the ground, gathering the very latest. Let's take you out to Hampton County, South Carolina right now, where we find Court TV legal correspondent Shanley Painter, who had a closer look at the stretch of roadway where Stephen Smith's body was found, and she has with her a special guest.
Hey, good morning, Julie. I returned to the scene where Stephen Smith's body was found in 2015, and I spent about an hour with crime scene expert Dr. Kenny Kinsey. You may remember him as the star witness of the Alec Murdaugh double murder trial.
Shoots Paul in the back of the head like this, and where does the blood spatter go?
The blood spatter, the pellet defects that I did about, that the expert collected, was in the door frame at the top of the door.
Dr. Kinsey, one of the things that you said stuck out to you in the investigation report, the lack of physical evidence here at the scene. Talk to me about that.
Well, typically, Ms. Chanley, you're going to have car parts, plastic, glass. You know, those lenses, they don't hold up to a lot of impact. And the ones that I have worked that were intentional, and also the ones I've assisted Highway Patrol with, I believe there's always been debris.
Dr. Kinsey, you've marked the spot where we believe Stephen Smith's body was found. Now, on him, in his front pocket, Dr. Kinsey, his phone, undamaged, and car keys. His shoes down here still on his feet, loosely tied. The damage, according to the reports, to the head area only is what they observed here at the scene.
It doesn't take a lot of force to break a cell phone. I do it all the time. And I can't imagine that Mr. Smith was struck, and with the friction of the highway, it's unforgiving. It's hard to explain how that phone wouldn't be damaged. The shoes, like I said, I've never been a trooper. I've assisted on a number of them, and everything that was said earlier about the shoes, I believe the shoes are, at least one of them is usually ejected.
Right.
The lack of damage to the clothing, and that's what I have done. And I look at the clothing, and I don't see a lot of defects in the clothing that is caused from contact with the pavement. And the positioning on the middle line, I mean, at bare minimum, I don't think a person could mistakenly hit someone and not know they hit someone.
Now, SLED is investigating this as a homicide. And so, let's say they return here to the scene. What are some things they're going to be looking for here? Show me what they'd be looking for.
They're gonna probably come back just like we talked this morning. If they haven't already, I don't want to speak for SLED because I know all those men and women. And they're going to come back, they're going to do their own measurements, and they're going to find their own characteristics in the horizon and their own features. And they're going to map this thing, every inch of it. That's 30 good. We're close. Look at it here, that's 30 good. And it's 32 foot off that hole. So where's this area right here? His feet would have been in this area, and then his head in that direction.
Dr. Kinsey, there's a lot of unanswered questions about this scene, things that maybe the new investigation will reveal. Maybe some of those answers will come to light, but there's some things that maybe we just will never know about what really happened here, right?
Yeah, Chanley, that if you knew 100%, it would always be perfect. And evidence degrades over time, memories fade, things are missed. But I believe the key here is someone knows.
What's up, Chris?
Someone knows, because people can't be quiet, and somebody knows, and they're scared to come forward for whatever reason.
What's up, Dre?
But somebody knows, and the Smith family deserves answers.
And Julie, Dr. Kinsey told me that one of the main pieces of the puzzle he wishes he had now would be the answer to the exact injuries that Stephen Smith sustained before he died. And we may have those answers sooner than later, as the attorneys for Stephen's mother, Sandy Smith, are seeking permission to have his body exhumed. And we are expecting a big announcement from her attorneys coming up on Monday. For now, Julie, I'll send it back to you.
Our thanks to Chanley Painter for her reporting this morning. And speaking of the attorneys for the Smith family, we have them both joining us now. They're standing by in Columbia, South Carolina. Attorneys Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter. Oh, and forgive me, I'm being told Ronnie is in North Carolina, so you're both spread out in the Carolinas. Big welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being on the show. Eric, you've become a real friend of the show. It's been wonderful talking with you so much, throughout these various investigations and cases that have come up, and great to have your partner with us this morning as well. So Ronnie, wonderful to meet you too. Could we kind of start with the latest? Eric, I'll begin with you, please. You gave us an update at the start of this week on Monday, kind of where things stood. Has anything changed? Any news you can share with us? Perhaps with the exhumation of Stephen's body?
Yes, I can safely say that we have our team in place from a forensic standpoint. With Dr. Michelle Dupree, we have two pathologists. One is a anthropologist, so because of the age of the bones that are going to come out of the coffin. And we're very excited about having Dr. Kenny Kinsey on our team to lead the investigative team. And it's kind of appropriate that you had Chanley on with him from her interview with him yesterday. We also are making substantial progress on getting approval from the state to be able to exhume the body. And we believe that we will have all of our approvals done by early next week, and the exhumation will take place next week. So we're pretty excited. I don't think we're going to have any roadblocks that are going to stop us. And once we get the body exhumed, we're going to take it to get the second autopsy done. And then hopefully we'll be able to get a new death certificate.
Oh, wow. Eric, you all are really making progress. This news with Dr. Kenny Kinsey leading your independent investigation, this is big breaking news. I don't believe this has ever been reported before, has it?
I said it to one radio station yesterday, but it hasn't really gone out into the press. So you guys are not only getting that, but Ronnie and I very rarely appear on TV together. So this is another nice addition.
Oh, well, it sure is. And it's great for us. Our viewers have become very invested in this case, as you both know. And Ronnie, I'll go to you on this one, please. In terms of getting Dr. Kinsey to lead up your investigation, did the idea come after seeing him testify in Alec Murdaugh's criminal case?
Yeah, no question. We fell in love with Dr. Kinsey, just like we believe the jury did, just like we believe the greater public did. He's an amazing investigator. He's He's such a value add to the team. And he was also enthusiastic and excited to be included. So we think we've assembled really a top flight team. We have both local and national forensic pathology experts, an anthropologist, as Eric mentioned, and now Dr. Kinsey to kind of lead up the investigative recreation side of what took place.
You all are well on your way in this search for justice. Eric, I want to go to you on something, please. This week, as we've been dissecting various things, you know our team is on the ground there in South Carolina. We were reviewing the interview that Stephen Smith's boyfriend gave to law enforcement not long after he was found dead. The boyfriend's name is Mark Bickhart. And I'm curious, after we heard parts of it, and I'm going to play one little clip now, and we'll talk on the other side. I wanted to ask you all if you've spoken to him or if Sandy Smith has spoken to him. Let's take a listen to him describing Stephen being harassed at a store shortly before he was found dead.
That store.
About who?
He didn't say. He said it was a couple of guys in the pickup truck. If I recall correctly, he said they were rednecks. But I know.
Did he ever give you a description of the pickup truck? Yeah, he may or may not.
He said it was big and it was tall. He didn't give me a description with the mud tires. But the last time we talked that night, before the phone went down, and I said to him, "Are you walking or not?" I called him back. Or was that before? I know at one point I heard mud tires. I heard big mud tires. Big mud tires. And
In other words, when you say you hear
in the background,
are you hear whining? Is what you're trying to say? Like,
yeah, I hear the mud tires like they're coming towards him or going past him because they sounded loud. That they were getting louder, and that I believe was the last time I talked to him.
So you didn't ask him what was going on? What are you doing? You asked him what he was doing?
At one point, yes, I did. He said he was coming to me.
No, when you heard those mud tires, you didn't ask him.
That was
what's
the
going
point.
on? What you
Because
doing?
first I heard a semi, then I heard the mud tires. Right after all that, it went down.
Okay, Eric, please tell us anything you can share with us about Mark Bickhart, if you've spoken with him, if Sandy Smith has spoken with him, and what you make of what he's sharing here with police.
Well, first, I'd like to say it's an alleged boyfriend because that hasn't been confirmed.
Oh, okay.
Number
That's
two,
important. Okay.
Number two, SLED has determined that he was not credible in many things that he offered during that interview and in a second subsequent interview. I do not believe that he was going home, that he was going to meet Mark. I believe he was going home if he was walking, and we dispute that he was even walking because there's some evidence on the bottom of the shoes of flat mud that wouldn't coincide with walking on the cinder of a street. He would have the imprint of the street. But for instance, Julie, let me give you an example. Yesterday or the day before, I received an urgent phone call at my office from somebody named Sonia. When I got on the phone, she said she was Sandy Smith and that she had already exhumed the body and that we're trying to steal all her money from the GoFundMe page. So sometimes in these high profile cases, there are people who inject themselves who may not be legitimate or may have some connection, and they embellish the connection to a larger extent. We have not talked to Mark yet, as our purpose right now is to focus on the exhumation of the body and getting it down so an autopsy can be done. The investigation will begin, and that's what Dr. Kinsey's going to do, but I don't believe the first person he's going to go to is Mark.
I appreciate you sharing that, Eric. And Ronnie, let me go to you on this one, please. You all are being asked a lot of questions right now. There are so many questions surrounding his death, as you both know, and everybody wants answers. That being said, is there anything you wish you would be asked in interviews that you haven't been thus far, please?
No, yeah, I think the questions have been pretty consistent about, what are our intentions? What are the next steps? And obviously we got to keep a lot of that close to the vest. If there's a question that I guess I wish people would ask, it's, what can we do? And especially for the folks in Hampton County, this is a small community. it's impossible that people connected to this crime haven't spoken to other people. So what you can do if you have information is call SLED, call the tips line, call us. But at some point in time, someone has to break the silence and step forward and share something. And it's going to be the smallest thread that leads us to solving this crime.
Well said. Well said, Ronnie. Eric, let me go to you, please, with the last question. So many of our viewers, we have an endearing term, we call them, our courties, are watching this, hoping for answers, trying to solve it. They've become very invested in it, and their hearts are breaking for Sandy Smith, for Stephen Smith's twin sister, for the whole family and everybody who knew him and loved him. Is the Smith family aware of all of the love and the public interest and the support that's out there for them right now?
Not only they are aware, but we get cards every day to Sandy and her daughter telling them how much the people love them. Ronnie yesterday got a letter with a check for $100 for Sandy Smith that said, look, we know that you live a modest life. We don't want this to go to the investigation. We want this to go to you. I just read that card to Sandy this morning. She is just humbled beyond belief. They are aware of it. Every time I get on our website, somebody sends us a message, just give our love to Sandy. We send it to her. At times she can't even talk because she's crying so much. I mean, this is a single mother who for 8 years has been championing the death of her son. And people really show good spirit. One of the things that Ronnie and I have come to learn is that people are pretty good, really good. After 35 years of practicing law, we're pretty jaded. But throughout this process, we cannot believe that just the goodness in people that they're willing to do for Sandy. Look, the GoFundMe is over $120,000. And Julie, that's with $5 and $10 donations. That's not somebody coming in and writing a $75,000 check. That's a lot of people. And these donations have come from Europe, from Asia, all over the world.
My goodness. And it proves your point that there are so many good people, so many more good people than there are bad people in this world. And that's really the perfect note to end on. So glad that they're feeling all the love. And the Smith family is in wonderful hands with you both. Thank you kindly, Eric Bland, Ronnie Richter. Every good wish as you both continue this investigation. And please come back on and join us soon.
That's a pretty good video there. A lot of information, a lot of updates as well. If you'd like to have that for your own playlist, there's the link for that. And it's the truth, Grizz. Like, everybody that is connected in this, that's what we're going to get into tonight, our theories. And I don't know. That's right, Skittles. It's the truth. And I have a few questions. If you haven't been able to read the full report and you weren't able to either hang out in the show earlier or give it a listen, there's some interesting things that I'm going to bring up tonight before I get into my theory. But I pretty much already had my theory for a week or two already. Hopefully Kevin Kraft hops in tonight because me and him are kind of on the same path, but we have different variations as well. So I'd be very interested to hear what he has for his. Yes, it's a very, very informative, definitely the truth. And yeah, but there's a couple things that came out when we were reading this full report that just didn't make sense to me. So I'm going to share these things that I caught with everybody tonight and let you guys know. We're going to hear a couple of statements. We're going to hear, just kind of remind everybody what was being put out there and what was being thought of and what was being said first. But everything that I'm playing tonight, just pay special attention to, because there's a reason that I'm playing these couple videos. And then I'm going to go into what I noticed in the full report that just kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Give me 1 second here. So get your theories ready if you have some. I'd definitely be interested to hear them. Probably in about 45 minutes, we'll be getting into it. Hurry up, Kevin Kraft. Come on, man.
Because, Stephen Smith has waited almost a decade for justice. It's now determined that the law enforcement doesn't believe he died in the middle of the street, right? It wasn't a hit and run, but he's been buried for years. With everybody just saying nothing to see here. And now there's something to see because,
Yes.
listen, great detail.
I'm going to pause this. Yes, the green Jeep is one of them, Pam. The green Jeep is one of them. But we'll be getting into that here in a few minutes. I can't wait.
First, by a fantastic.
There's something else that I don't know if anybody noticed, but it's in the report, and I'm going to show it to you, and it's going to make you go, whoa, wait a minute, huh?
Tweet her. Sleuthy Goosey is her Twitter account, and she just happened to notice in some of the reports that were filed in the Stephen Smith death investigation, not everybody agreed on what he was wearing. Oh, come on. If there's one thing you should be able to agree on is what was on the person's body, right? So the original reports were the sheriff's office, and they said he had on a white polo shirt and khakis, and then the black shoes, navy shoes. They said actually navy shoes, blue shoes. And that's interesting. But they were on the scene first with the medical examiner, and then along came the highway patrol.
Crap. Well, that's what I was going to say that I found in the report was that it said a white collared shirt. It was on page 98. I'll show you. What? Dang it.
Okay, South Carolina Highway Patrol was there.
I shouldn't have played this video.
And the highway patroller that showed up first, who did his job, right? He was doing exactly what he's supposed to do, walking the scene, looking for evidence. He did everything. And then, he did the thing that you're supposed to do, grabs his books, his files, and he uncovers the body. And he gets a first look at Stephen Smith wearing not a white polo shirt, a black t-shirt. Now, I will admit I make loads of mistakes.
Yeah, and I made a mistake by sleeping Wednesday night. I slept past my alarm in my defense, but I made the mistake of laying down to take a nap before I was going to do my read through of this full report on Wednesday. And instead I slept, and I said, I'll get to it this weekend. I'm kicking my own ass here right now.
We all do. We're all human, little things, slip ups, balls drop. And some of them, for all of us, I think you can attest. Sometimes you make mistakes too, and we just do.
Yeah, Ashley, I made one Wednesday.
That's black and white. Literally black and white. White golf shirt with a collar. Black Nike t-shirt, no collar, and it's black. So if there's discrepancy, who disagrees?
Right, Grizz? Kicking my own ass.
The incident report for the sheriff had the white polo shirt, but that was the only entity that had the white polo shirt.
When was this video?
Those responding officers.
A day ago.
From the highway
Kicking my
patrol?
own ass.
Hell no. Black Nike, short sleeve shirt. Period. End of sentence. And that's what the ME said too. And that's what all of the other investigators who went to the funeral home and saw his body there said too. Black t-shirt, khaki shorts, dark shoes.
Oh my gosh, this is
I know
like
a
I'm
lot of
watching
people
my
have
own
been freaking out
video
about the
from
dark
earlier.
shoes.
Damn it!
I know that the reports say blue shoes, and then the internet says black shoes, and we think we know the discrepancy
Talk
there
about the
because
cell
the
phone,
reports
Ashley.
from the investigators all say the same thing,
Talk
and
about
they
the
say
cell
blue.
phone.
But when you look at the picture
Talk about
from the scene, they look very, very dark. They look black, and the investigator I spoke with exclusively said
Talk about the
that's
change of
probably the reason.
possession
Probably
of the cell
appeared black,
phone.
but they were blue in the reports. This
Bring
is
the cell
all
phone up.
super important, folks, because this investigation went cold. It was what you call a cold case. It was not closed. Lots of people say it was closed and it was reopened. It was not. They gave it a big injection after investigating the Murdochs. The Paul and Maggie Murdoch murders turned up something, some mystery piece of evidence that made them take a second look at Stephen Smith. Something really important made them realize, oh dear God, based on the information gathered during the course of the double murder investigation of Paul and Maggie Murdoch, well, we're going to need to take a fresh old look at Stephen Smith. And then along came the announcement that it was no longer being considered a hit and run, but instead a murder. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to...
Damn, kicking my own ass. Oh. Yeah. Well, I learned my lesson there. Don't take a freaking nap, dude. Do your work and go to bed early. Yeah, I learned my lesson right there. Lesson learned. But yeah, with the cell phone, investigators claimed that there was first, Sandy Smith said that she was a secondary fingerprint, so she could unlock the phone. This was a couple days after. This is in the report. That she could unlock the cell phone as a secondary fingerprint. They went to retrieve the phone, found out the phone didn't have the change of custody of the item. According to LE. So then when he got the phone and then took it to the meeting with Sandy Smith, they couldn't get the phone to unlock with the secondary fingerprint, which obviously means it had been tampered with. Now, the interesting thing is when you look at this report, and I'll go ahead and share the link to the report. When you look at the report, everything that is in these change of custody or whatever it's called. Let me see exactly what it's called. Change of possession. I apologize. This was a lot. Oh, here's that information though. SRB 1-888-CRIME-SC. And then the website is www.sccrimestoppers.com. You can call the South Carolina Highway Patrol at 843-953-6010 or 1-800-768-1506. This is on page 40 of the full report. Chain of custody. The chain of custody, okay? Now, what's interesting when you look through this report, I just want to mention this. The phone was collected from one individual, and then the clothing and other items were collected from another individual. Looking at this, what do you guys think? Thank you. Looking at this, what do you guys think of Kenneth Kinsey, I think that's his name, Kenneth Kinsey. What do you think about him being the lead investigator? You think he's going to be able to get justice? I heard a lot of people talk good about him for the Murdaugh. The individual tampered with the phone. It seems somebody did. I mean, but here's the tricky part. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to this page. Now, when it came to what Ashley Banfield was talking about, let me go to that first. That's page 98 on this full report. And this is from Officer Singleton. And he states that Detective Singleton, went up to take a look at the body and noticed a slender-build white male on the highway with khaki shorts and a white polo shirt. And up until I read this report, I never heard anything about a white polo shirt. This is almost towards the very end of this report when we got to this, and I was just like, what? Where have we ever heard of a white polo shirt? Yeah, I wasn't able to watch the Murdaugh trials, so I didn't really get to see him in action. So if we go to 85, right? Page 85. Okay. When you're looking at all these other chain of custody items, they're all in order. They're all around the same date. The from is in the to, and the to is in the next from. And it's pretty organized how it's written out. And then you go to look at this one, the Apple cell phone. And you see this big gap right here. 7:10 to 8:04. And then when you look at this gap, and this is completely different than any other two lines on any other chain of any other item in this full report. The two from 7:10, the last person to have it was MBERUBE, I'm assuming, because I can't read the handwriting. On the next line, which is almost a month later, Sled Fusion. Now, the location was Sled Fusion, but this is the first time and the only time in any of these reports, in this full report, where the two previously on the next line is not on the from, even though it's a location. That's when the phone was taken out. So if this LE was talking about how they had no chain of custody when it came to the phone, I find that odd because there's a chain of custody right here. But another thing that's odd is that it lists the location as the previous two, when any other line you look at on any of these other reports in here shows the previous instead of the location. Return. It's just very odd. But they could not unlock it. I don't know. It's just a weird thing in there. The green Jeep, Dale Stanley told Stephanie, Steven's sister, that a green Jeep was harassing Steven, following him. She also stated that she also had to help him fix his battery cables multiple times because his battery cables were getting messed with. Who owns a green Jeep? Sean, a prior suspect in a murder? What's that about? Ellie stating in this full report that Mark Bickart continually called them over and over and over and over, even called during meetings, left multiple voice messages. And the last time that they had heard from him was on 7/15/2015. And then when they reach out to him to talk to him on the 26th of August, 2018, multiple calls go straight to voicemail. Haven't heard. On 7/13, Mark had filed the 2 days before he quit contacting Ellie. 7/13/2015, Mark had filed a harassment report about somebody calling from the Cayman Islands saying that the same thing was gonna happen to him like his boyfriend. Mark is also the same individual on his Facebook that 2 weeks prior to Steven's murder put that he was in a relationship with Steven. Called him the love of his life. I don't think Steven was going to Mark's house that night. That's why he told Mark he wasn't walking. I think Mark is the gentleman that was harassing Steven, and Steven became friends with 2 weeks before his murder. Mark put he was in a relationship with Steven 2 weeks before the murder. If you were with us on the full report, you saw the Facebook post that Mark was posting that Stephen Smith's mom saved and sent for the MAIT report. The threats, the vocabulary, the anger, the hate, the violence, the connections, the groups, people he, quote, could only hold back for so long, quote, friends of his. The threats he was making to Steven's sister, the claims he was making about her. Ellie says that with all of their interviews, there was nothing there. You hear his audio interview, very defiant. Continually talked over the investigator. Was very abrasive. There's just a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, though. If Mark was the one Why would Randy show up at the scene right away? Why would Randy contact Stephen's father while they were still waiting to ID the body? Offer to represent pro bono. Just needed the phones and the tablet and the passwords. It just, I don't know. Something just. This is the thing with all these different theories. 75% of each one makes sense, and then there's 25% of it that just goes, this just doesn't make sense. So I don't know. That house is an interesting spot. But you know, Duck and Felonies brought up a good point that I didn't even think about. Did you guys catch what she said earlier in the chat? She said she's heard of an EMS hearing of somebody getting hit by a mirror in a hit and run, and then being able to walk some distance and then passing at a different location. It's a very interesting theory, and it's very probable as well. All right, so I'm going to switch back to the videos. We got a couple more videos, and then I just want you to hear what the Ellie has to say, and then we'll get into these theories. I'm gonna see if I can hit up Kevin again real quick too. I know it's Cuomo, but you know,
breaking
we're
news
gonna
in the
check it out.
investigation of the mysterious murder of Buster Murdoch's former classmate Stephen Smith. Authorities in South Carolina have named 2 persons of interest, and guess what? Neither one is named Murdoch. Joining us now, defense attorney Mark Garrigus and prosecutor David Arenberg. It's good to have you both. Before we go through the names, the idea that the state trooper who came upon the scene of Stephen Smith did not think it was a hit and run. But here's a new nugget of information. The pathologist who did the autopsy theorized Smith was hit in the head by the side view mirror of a passing truck that did not stop. What do you make of that assessment, Mark Garrigus?
Well, that could be consistent with them not believing it was a hit and run, because in order to have a hit and run, obviously somebody has to be aware of the hit. So that would not surprise me. What does surprise me about this today is that, at least so far, what's been reported by putting out the names of these 2 people of interest, at least it looks like it's based on uncorroborated double hearsay. And it's unfortunate that for those 2 people who've been identified, I suppose law enforcement is looking to see if anybody knows anything, but that's still going to follow these 2 people around for quite a while.
So one of them, the father of one of them, Dave, says he heard that the other one who's named was driving the car that took out Stephen Smith. How compelling is that?
I'm with Mark on this one, Chris. There are a lot of weird connections here that don't totally add up. Apparently, both of these individuals that are being mentioned as the new suspects were involved in various legal actions tied to the Murdoch family in the months following Stephen Smith's murder. And the tip that went to police came from Patrick Wilson's stepfather. So one of the individual's stepfather. And who told the stepfather to alert police? But Randy Murdoch, Alec's older brother. And also Wilson, this guy was at the time facing attempted murder charges from the DA's office where Alec Murdoch worked. So, I mean, this whole thing is just so squirrely. So my head's spinning. And another part about this tip that we're talking about that concerns me is the stepfather said that the guy was driving a vehicle that struck and killed Stephen Smith. But I thought this wasn't a hit and run. There was no indication that a car had lost any parts. There was no glass on the ground. Stephen Smith's shoes were still on. So there's going to be a lot more to investigate here.
The idea that, should I stop saying Buster Murdoch's classmate now that the latest advance in the reporting is that there is no proof at this point that does point to Buster Murdoch? At what point do we stop identifying this guy as his classmate, Mark?
Well, it's part of the problem when you get into these kind of true crime, super sensational cases, is that everybody who's a self-proclaimed PI is going to start to do all kinds of crazy connections. And Dave has seen it, I have seen it, and it's unfortunate because a lot of people get smeared along the way. And I think it probably is time to retire that.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television.
Well, thank you for joining us here on 6. I'm Mike Sealer.
And I'm Dawn Baker. A WTOC update in the Stephen Smith homicide case in South Carolina.
The WTOC Investigates has been looking through files and listening to audio recordings from the initial death investigation in 2015. As investigative reporter Max Deeknight explained, someone did report 2 young men that they say hit Smith with a truck, but they were never charged.
That's right. The 2 have not been charged, so we're not naming them, but we can confirm they are not members of the Murdoch family. Audio clips obtained by our team reveal there's much more to this story. A phone call in December 2015 between now retired Corporal Michael Duncan with the South Carolina Highway Patrol and former Hampton County police officer Nick Ginn reveal a tipster made authorities aware of 2 potential suspects in 19-year-old Stephen Smith's death. We'll call them Person 1 and Person 2.
Can you tell me what was told to you? We've tried to get in touch with, but he's kind of avoiding the call, the contact, and all.
This is what I was told. He said, come over here to the house. He said, he told me that was drunk and hit something. He said he went back the next day to see what it was he had hit, and he seen a lot of police out there. So he talked to one of the cops, and then he had left, and then he learned, I guess by media, that somebody had been killed in that same area.
The tipster told Ginn Person 1 was visibly distraught.
Was crying, telling him, and after he got finished telling the story, he walked outside his house and threw up.
They also say Person 2, the driver of the truck, may have tried to cover up evidence.
So supposedly he had fixed his mirror. He had patched one of the mirrors up on the truck.
Both officers acknowledged this was the only concrete lead they'd come across in this investigation.
Well, I heard some rumors around town, but as far as anything that I could say that had any kind of possible validity would be this.
Right. Just the only thing you've heard prior to this is rumors.
Right.
Okay.
The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED, is investigating Smith's death as a homicide. They reopened the investigation after finding evidence during the Murdoch double murder investigation in 2021. But again, neither of these potential suspects discussed in this recording are part of the Murdoch family.
WTOC has been following this investigation since it began back in 2015. You can find all of our coverage of the Stephen Smith case on our website, WTOC.com. Well, thank you for joining us here on The News at 6. I'm Mike.
There we go. What's up, Kevin? How you doing, man?
I'm good. Now that I got the mutt back in the house.
A little muffly. What? What happened?
My dog decided he wanted to chase a squirrel or something.
Oh, yeah? Hey, it's
So
all fun.
chased around the yard yelling at him, and now he's all like, "I'm sorry. Please love me."
That's what they're there for, man. Yeah,
Man,
if anybody else would like to hop up, you're more than welcome.
Oh.
Pam says, what if Stephen was hired by Alex to work for his madame? Mark said Stephen had to shave clean. Alex needed a young guy in that house. It's an interesting thought. I had heard about Alex using an escort service. I'd like to know, like, Pam, who do you think was involved? How do you think it went down? And what do you think about these two people that they're persons of interest suspects now? How much of that report did you get to hear, man? And I never heard about this repairing a mirror.
You talking about earlier? I was asleep about 20
Yeah.
minutes after I said, I think I'm passing out.
Yeah.
And I'm only awake because the dog barked.
There's a couple things that are interesting. One thing I'm going to read is from the report is on page 28. Again, I'll put the link to the report in chat if you don't have it. And this is what they were talking about in this video that we just watched. And this is from Investigator Proctor on 12/18/2015. I received information from Corporal Duncan about an individual, Daryl Williams. He is stating that his stepson, Patrick Wilson, told him that Sean Conley struck and killed Stephen Smith. Mr. Williams and Patrick Wilson is the same gentleman they were referring to in the video that we watched about walking out the front door and puking after he told Daryl Williams the story. Mr. Williams stated that his son told him this in confidence and that his son had moved out and he did not know where he was staying. He could only tell me that Patrick attended some Christian school in Ridgeland. I drove down to Ridgeland and went to Step of Faith School. Patrick Wilson was not a student there. I then found Legacy Utah Baptist Church School. Patrick Wilson is a student there, but was not at school today. I then drove to Hampton, attempting to locate an address for Patrick. I could not get his stepfather to return my calls. Mr. Williams stated that the reason that he was passing this information on was because Randy Murdaugh told him to call. And that's the only thing that refers to Sean Conley or Patrick Wilson in this report. And these are their two main suspects out of this one page, page 28. I would have to dig into my files and see if I do. I'm not sure. If you do, Pam, if you don't mind sending them to me, and then I'll go ahead and pull it up off of my email and show them. Then I won't have to switch my screen share. If you don't mind, if you do have that picture, I would love to share it. This is an article from Fitz News, so I want to thank them for the article. Another thing that's interesting, Kevin, that you might not have heard is that on page 98, this is the only mention. Now, anytime that we've looked at pictures, anytime that we've heard the articles of clothing, it was always a black t-shirt. Okay, black Nike t-shirt. You get to page 98, and Officer Singleton states that Detective Singleton went up to take a look at the body and noticed a slender-built white male on the highway with khaki shorts and a white polo shirt. Where'd this white polo shirt come from? So did somebody change the t-shirt?
That or somebody's falsifying a document somewhere.
It just doesn't make sense. White polo shirt is a lot different than a black t-shirt.
Yeah, just a little bit.
This is Officer Singleton, Pam. This is on page 98 of the report. Yeah, if anybody has the picture, please send it to me, whether it's on Discord, email, or Twitter, and I can go ahead and share it.
Yeah, I'm really happy I don't live in that corrupt town.
Yeah. Another thing that's odd, Kevin, is that we read in the report, and anybody that didn't know this either, Ernie Washington and Kelly Green, Hampton County Coroner's Office, had already moved the body before SLED had arrived at the crime scene.
That's not good police procedure.
That's another thing that's in the report.
You're not supposed to be doing that crap.
Another thing we heard in the report is either the evening of 11/17/2015 or the morning of 11/18/2015, the mom heard on the radio that they found a suspect and they were or about to arrest the suspect in the Stephen Smith case, and contacted Ellie asking if that was true. Why would she hear that on the radio? Now, we also heard rumors about Paul supposedly blurting out at school that Buster had something to do with it, running his mouth. Got brought in from the school and sat down. Paul, school officials, and the family, not Ellie. And then the next day, Paul was transferred to a private school. So is that the same? Is he maybe the one that called the radio station? Are these rumors even true? We know when that call was placed about the radio station, so if we know if Paul did transfer to a private school out of the blue in the middle of a school year, well, we could look at those dates and see maybe it was. I don't know anybody that owns a green Jeep. A green Jeep was mentioned as well, harassing Stephen, following him.
Well, one other thing I thought of while we were doing that read through earlier, they said there is the same blue paint that's on street signs, right? What if they used a street sign to beat them, not a baseball bat? If kids like to steal signs and stuff like that and be dumb.
It looks, from the looks of the injury, it looks to be something that was just done with a swoop or two. Because I think that with the damage that was done, how much damage was done in a small area, 7 1/4 inch. It just makes you wonder what was the object that even did that.
That's what I mean. Maybe a kid stole a street sign being dumb and used that to beat him. If you hang that thing out of the back end of a truck, whack somebody in the back of the head, that's going to do some major damage.
Well, Mark states that he was the last one to talk to Stephen. He states that he heard mud tires getting closer, and then the phone cut out. We thought, we heard all of these connections about a white truck, 2 or 3 people. You heard the Sean Connolly story with Patrick Wilson. But we never even thought maybe a green Jeep has those mud tires as well. Was it the green Jeep?
Yeah.
You know, I totally, when we were going through all these audio interviews and the Sean Conley and the Patrick Wilson story came up, I automatically thought, I was like, wow, as we were watching it, I'm like, this is credible right here. You have somebody that's saying that somebody hit something, and then after they're done telling the story, we didn't even hear what we heard in the report. But after we were done hearing the story, which was very minimal, and then the kid walks out the front door and pukes, you automatically go, why would you be puking if there's nothing going on in your head to puke about? But then when at the end of it, we heard Daryl say, well, the only reason that I'm telling you this is because Randy Murdoch told me to. That's what made me go, okay, maybe this is just a smoke screen.
Yeah.
So do you think he was hit and run? What do you think, man?
It might have been a hit and run, but either way, I would say it was deliberate murder.
Who do you think is involved? You think I don't know, with Mark saying he was in a relationship with Steven 2 weeks before his passing on Facebook. No, Steven didn't like anything. He didn't comment on anything. He wasn't tagged in anything. He wasn't attached to anything.
Well, I've known people that didn't like, or, you know, my last girlfriend, she hated it whenever I'd tag her in anything or even say anything about having an amazing girlfriend online. So he might have just been private like that. Then again, we don't know how that ended.
Well, I think this. I think even if he's not involved, I think Mark was the individual that was harassing Steven, and then Steven became friends with him 2 weeks before he passed. Mark put that he was in a relationship with Steven 2 weeks before he passed. Steven's sister and mother say Steven became very private the last 2 weeks before his passing. The last 2 weeks before his passing, he quit going to school. He played hooky a lot, and he quit studying like he always was the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I definitely think Mark's got more involved in it than what he's letting on. But
well, he's offered to take a polygraph, but that was before July 15th, 2015.
yeah, and didn't you say when they went to look for him to have it done, he was never available again?
Yeah, they tried reaching out to him again starting on 8/26, 2015, and his phone would just go straight to voicemail.
Probably
The
changed his
boys,
number.
I mean, that could be too. There is stories out there about, you know, the people in the truck hitting mailboxes, noticed him walking, turned around, started some shit.
But it sounds like the way he was, he would have, if he saw a truck go by once, he would have ran to the woods.
Right. Well, according to his mom and his sister, he would have stayed in the woods until they drove by where he was located, and then he seen them drive by and then would come out of the woods. His mom states he would have never walked in the road.
Yeah.
And his sister was waiting up all night. The mom stated in an interview his sister Stephanie was waiting up all night for a call from Steven just in case, because somebody was messing with the battery cables earlier that day. And why didn't he call her? And why was he walking? Did maybe his cell phone die because Mark kept hitting him up all the time, like he was hitting up Ellie?
Yeah, I don't know. There's too many variables.
It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You know, the mom was they didn't even know who Mark was.
It
Mark
almost
came
sounds
into the
like
funeral.
It almost sounds like he was harassing him, and he thought the easiest way to make him go away was just act like he was friends with him. Because I've had to use that trick with people
Exactly.
in the past.
Exactly. And then that's why Mark all of a sudden put he was in a relationship. I think those things took place.
Yeah.
That's why I think Mark was the one that was harassing him like that, like what his family's talking about. You know, and then Mark shows up at the funeral. They don't even know who this guy is. He introduces himself as Steven's boyfriend. She just says, "Prepare yourself. It doesn't look like him." He said, "That's fine." He walked up and he said, "What happened?" And she said, "Hit and run." And he said, "Nah, he is beaten." And then asks the sister, "Was he assaulted also?" Then after he finds out that it's him, then he calls somebody and says, "Yeah, he's dead," and then hangs up the phone.
Well, that could have been a friend or family member that just found out he lost his supposed boyfriend too.
It could be a lot of things. I wasn't suggesting anything. I was just letting the facts out there.
Okay.
You think what you will.
It definitely sounds suspicious, though.
And then he brings up the Cayman Islands. He files a harassment report with a police officer on 7/15/2015, reporting that he's getting harassing, threatening calls from the Cayman Islands, saying that he needs to be quiet or he's going to end up like his boyfriend ended up. But if you read the stuff that Sandy Smith sent to LE with all those Facebook posts, you're looking at all the threats and anger. He said, I'm holding off the Jersey boys as long as I can. I don't know how long I can hold them off. Threatening people. You don't want to know what I would do to you. Don't cross me. The boat trip, the mom keeps stating in all these interviews that there was a boat trip that was coming up that weekend. Mark was so in love with Steven. Did he find out about this boat trip? Premeditate something? Meet me at this spot on the side of the road? I don't think he was going to Mark's house, because if he was going to be going to Mark's house like Mark states, I don't see why Steven wouldn't have had him come get him. Or bring him gas.
Yeah.
Or walk in the opposite direction. It just doesn't make sense. So I think what he has is a bunch of lies. He was very forthcoming with being able, wanting to offer whatever he could. He said he would even bend over backwards. And then all of a sudden they can't get a hold of him for a polygraph or an interview or further questioning. Straight to voicemail. So do you think these two people, what do you think about the theory of these two people? I mean, they're persons of interest. They're the suspects that SLED's looking at.
I think they've got a lot more going on in the case than what they're willing to admit to right now.
Well, yeah, they have to get a conviction. But we know the story. Daryl Williams says it. Page 98 of the full report. Or not page 98, I'm sorry. Page 28. He states that Patrick Wilson, his stepson, told him that Sean Wilson had killed Steven Smith. Now, the story that it's not stated in here is we heard an audio interview, and it stated that he was also told that Sean Connolly was driving home intoxicated, hit something, wasn't sure what he hit, decided to just go home and go to bed, and he would go look the next day. He woke up the next morning, was heading down to the location where he thought that he hit something, and noticed LE was there, and so he decided not to go there. And this right here, that's where Stephen Smith's body was located, and that's where Sean Connolly was residing. Right down the same road. So as he left his house, as he pulled out the driveway, started driving down the road, as he's coming down, he's getting closer to this intersection, and then he notices there's a bunch of LE at the location, so that must be what he hit. But what's weird is Sandy Smith said that they were sitting in the department, in the waiting room. They were waiting to ID the body, and Randy Murdaugh contacted her husband and stated that he'd be willing to represent them pro bono. And then she stated as she was leaving the station, she was driving home and decided to drive by the scene. And as she was driving by the scene is when she noticed Alec and Randy at the crime scene, but kept driving. When she got home, she got a call from Randy asking if that was her that drove by. And she said yes. And he said, well, I wish you would have stopped, because then I could have introduced myself in person. So why are they involved if Sean Connolly and Patrick Wilson are the ones that supposedly committed this crime or are involved in it? Ball bats are definitely... Yeah. What is the evidence that led them to reopen it so quick after it being cold for a few years? There's definitely the Buster theory. I do have a video on where it even started, according to this source. Interesting, Pam.
I was still wondering if him and Buster were more than just friends, but nobody wants to admit it.
That was a theory in the very beginning, and it's definitely plausible.
That's what my gut still says, that they were together at some point, whether it was, physical or what, but that they were better friends than anybody really realized. Whether anything was actually going on between them or not.
Well, they were the same age. I heard that from just want to...
All right, they were classmates, and
I'm what
wondering
theory?
I just
you
with
think about No, go ahead. I'm just reading comments.
No, because I was thinking, if even if nothing physical was going on, I can't imagine Buster's dad being happy knowing his son's hanging out with somebody of that particular sexual orientation, that being a typical Southern family. So then again, I just feel bad for Buster with everything he's having to deal with right now. So sucks being an empath.
Well, if he didn't have anything to do with it, then yes, of course. But if he did, he should have more pressure. Jinx says, I've wondered if Buster or Alex has a relationship or sorts, and that's how Randy and Alex being there. Well, see, that was like in the very beginning because we first started exploring the Buster and Steven theory. That was in the beginning of this series, and it's definitely plausible, right? It definitely makes sense on why the Murdaugh would be showing up and representing so quickly. You know, why is Randy offering to represent the family if he's a personal injury lawyer? You know what I'm saying? There's just a
He
lot of
was
weird things.
workers' comp lawyer, not personal injury.
Workers' comp. I just go off
Personal
of what's
injury, he would
reported.
that would actually could be potentially in his field.
Well, let's find out because I've just heard different reports, but let's find out for sure.
I remember several people stating that he was a workers' comp attorney, not a personal injury.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody can find out for sure and throw links up or something. Randy is workers' comp lawyer. Now, does it make sense for him to show up like he did then if you're a workers' comp lawyer?
I mean, you definitely have some information and have a better chance of defending somebody with a personal injury, but
I know he was
there is a
representing
difference
his
there.
dad. I know he was currently representing his dad when this was going on. Absolutely not, Kid Kitty says. Yeah, possible, and they did one through some.
I don't think you could represent family. That'd be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, he was already. This is from his mom. Sandy Smith stated that the reason, because they asked her, why do you think that he contacted your husband, or how did he get your husband's phone number? And she was like, well, he was already representing him.
Okay, that makes sense then.
For an injury.
I thought you meant he was representing his own father, not Steven's father. I got you.
But then you go. But then at the same time, why is Randy? This is again from the mother. Why is Randy calling the dad, telling him he'll represent pro bono? He just needs these items and passwords if they're sitting there waiting to ID the body. When the kid's wallet was in his car, it wasn't even on his body, so there was no way to identify him at that point until they got the vehicle.
He knew more than he was letting on.
Exactly. So then it brings me back to the question, why is Sean and Patrick suspects? So then it makes me wonder, are they going after the smaller suspicions first to hopefully lead them up the ladder? We're going to put pressure on these two people because this is because if you read the report, you have Daryl, because you have to look at it objectively. You know, even though Randy Murdaugh told Daryl to call as an officer, you have to look at that objectively and be like, okay, I can't have personal feelings involved in this decision. So, okay, some guy said that he wanted you to call, right? So then you go back to what Daryl states, and that would have to be the first theory that you go off of, because that one is the most plausible if you take the personal feelings of Randy out of it. But then when you look at it and you start to put the pieces together, why would Randy and Alec be involved with Sean and Patrick? Now, with the way that they showed up and the way that they're offering services and the way that they're there, you would think that somebody, just like in other things that happened, whether it's the boat accident, whether it's the truck accident, they were showing up as a family, hurrying up, getting ready to make sure that they controlled the situation. So why were they displaying those same actions like they do anytime their family's involved with something? Why are they showing up on this one like this if Sean and Patrick are the suspects?
Maybe they were concerned that one of their kids was involved in it, even if they weren't.
Kid Kitty thinks scapegoats. That's what I'm thinking, Jinx. They're going to go, because if you look at, this is what I'm saying, if you look at the report and you don't know anything about Randy, okay? Because that's how you have to look at it in a way. You don't know anything about Randy and you read what's written, you're like, holy shit, these two people are my main suspects. When you look at this whole report, so it makes sense that they need to investigate these two, right? But when you look at the facts and you break all this down, that doesn't, unless you can give me a reason why the Murdaws are showing up like they're showing up with the cavalry, mental and physical, like they do with all the other family matters, for Sean and Patrick, if you can tell me why they would be like their own children, because if you think about it, they're treating them like their own family, their own children. Why? If they didn't have anything to do with it, why?
Unless they're good friends with one of their kids and nobody knows about it.
Mm-hmm. You know, and then you think about Mark and you're just like, something is just fishy there too. Like I said, you go to all of these theories and like 75% you feel is like totally makes sense in any of these theories, whether it's Mark, whether it's Sean and Patrick, whether it's the Murdaws, whether it's the green vehicle, whether it's the white truck with the two people harassing him at the gas station, which is why he didn't get gas. Any of these theories, 75% of it makes sense. 25% of it makes you go like, how does this make sense? Now, I'm going to go back to this video that we just watched a little bit ago, and I want to try and re-catch something because they mentioned somebody was repairing some mirror or something, and I want to see if I can catch that again. So I'm going to go back and play this real quick. Is there anything you want to add, Kevin, before we watch this again?
Not at the moment.
I just want to see who was repairing a mirror.
Person 2. Can you tell me what was told to you? We've tried to get in touch with, but he kind of avoiding the call, the contact, and all.
This is what I was told. He said, "Come over here to the house." He said he told me that was drunk and hit something. He said he went back the next day to see what it was he had hit, and he seen a lot of police out there. So he talked to one of the cops, and then he had left, and then he learned, I guess by media, that somebody had been killed in that same area.
The tipster told Ginn person 1 was visibly distraught.
Was crying, telling him, and after he got finished telling the story, he walked outside his house and threw up.
They also say person 2, the driver of the truck, may have tried to cover up evidence.
So supposedly he had fixed his mirror. He had patched one of the mirrors up on the truck.
Both officers acknowledged this was the
he had fixed his mirror. He had patched one of the mirrors up on the truck.
Both officers acknowledged.
Okay. That was right there. Sean had patched one of the mirrors up.
That would definitely do some damage if you clipped somebody with one.
I wonder if that picture of that truck in these mirrors is out there.
Does it say what color truck the kid had at the time?
I haven't noticed. Now, we did have some pictures we went through a couple nights ago. We're not sure, if those are the actual truck or not. But from what it appears, it did have mud tires. It just didn't have extended mirrors. So I'm not sure.
No, if you're drunk, you might not see somebody, especially if they're wearing a black shirt, like most of the reports are indicating.
Yeah, but why is Singleton stating a white polo?
Well, given
So
the
then-
area, I wouldn't be surprised if at least some of law enforcement was paid off to make it read how the Murdaughs wanted.
When I saw that in the report, it made me wonder, did somebody replace the shirt to remove evidence of their own?
I'm still wondering if he was killed somewhere else and drug out there to make this all look like a hit and run. Because that's
Well-
kind of the vibe I get.
Well, with the way that the injury was, and we can share the graphic material if you need us to. The way that the injury was, it happened there. No, I'm not saying that it didn't take place at this location that was a vacant property. Thanks to Suzanne Andrews for letting us know that information. This was a vacant property at the time. And his body was found right there where my cursor is. I'll just see if I can go right to it. Right there is where his body was found. But when you look at those pictures, and I can put them back up there if you need me to, you take a look at those pictures. It may not have happened, but it sure as hell happened really close to where he was found.
They could even found him in the woods, clubbed him or whatever, then threw him in the road and took off. You know what I mean?
Have you seen?
Yeah, that's the problem. When I'm at work, I
I'll have
can't
to
always
check
do
that
what
out
you're
or
putting
something.
up. I usually just listen.
Yeah, let me excuse me. Let me see here. Are you able to check your Facebook?
Yeah, I
Would
can
that be a
hop on.
better picture if I send
Probably.
it to Facebook? All right, let me just do that. I'll send it to Facebook. That way I don't have to put it up because it is pretty graphic and I don't want to zoom in on that. Let me see here.
Yeah, I got my other phone sitting here, so I can do that without even having to get out of the app. Because half the time when I leave the app, you can't hear me.
Yeah. All right. So here, I'm sending it there. These are all of the pictures combined. Okay.
I just got it.
All right. Tell me if you think it didn't happen where he was found. I might get back to chat real quick.
Alright. I'll look here in a second.
If he got hit by a car, he would be airborne and shoes would come off. Exactly. I mean, you listen to all of these. While he's looking at this picture, I'm going to go to one of my videos here. And this is what they're stating about their experience with the crime scene. This is Todd Proctor, state trooper, former state trooper.
A murder mystery in South Carolina, the Low Country, involving two members of a prominent legal family. Police have not mentioned any clues or suspects publicly in the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. The investigation into their deaths is prompting a new scrutiny on a cold case from 2015, however. And Fox News has an exclusive interview with a former state trooper involved in that case from 6 years ago. Griff Jenkins is on that story, Colleton County in South Carolina. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Bill. There have been no arrests and no persons of interest have been publicly named in the investigation into the brutal murder of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, as they're referred to here locally in Colleton County. We went out to the property yesterday. It's a 1,700-acre hunting lodge the Murdaughs own. We tried to find out what has led investigators to reopen the 2015 cold case of the death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. That case ruled a hit-and-run death, but we spoke to the lead investigator, former trooper Todd Proctor, and he says that in his recollections, it was anything but a hit and run. Listen. You said it pointed more to a murder and less of a hit and run.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I had been in law enforcement on the highway patrol for, 15 years. I've worked several collisions, hit and run collisions. Nothing about this case from the very beginning pointed towards it being a hit and run.
You stated then on record that you thought it pointed towards a murder. Why?
I mean, again, as any investigator, you go off of the evidence. There was no evidence that pointed towards this being a hit and run or a vehicle even being involved in it. It looked like it was more staged, like possibly the body had been placed in the roadway.
Proctor says, by the way, that the
So yeah, like it was placed, but when you look at those photos, Kevin, tell me what you think, man. What do you think if it was necessarily placed in it wasn't placed like we thought before. I'll put it that way. And I don't think mud would be on his shoes from walking on pavement. I don't either. And you bring up a good thought, Pam, about running through the woods and the corn. His mom had even stated that, or maybe it was his sister. I think it was his sister actually, that he had been chased through the woods on prior occasions. That's why whenever he was stranded, he always went into the woods because he didn't want people to see him. Okay, on those pictures, all right, let me look. Well, I can't see in the pictures that I have. So what picture are you referring to? Vehicle, I thought it was too, right, because of sand and ground. I feel someone was after him. Clay soil can be like cement sometimes. Yeah, and the interview room was talking about that, about how when you looked at the photos, you could see dried mud and wet mud. And this was when they were looking at the body. This was anywhere from 1 to 5 hours later.
Well, it could also be that somebody, say he was going through the woods and somebody knew that he was there, went chasing after him. Maybe he ran across into the road and didn't hear the truck. Because maybe he was off the side of the road when that phone call happened. But how do we know that a certain somebody was home? Maybe he was in the woods trying to find the dude, and after they hung up, he went running after him to try to catch him, and Steven just freaked out, ran, ended up in the middle of the road as a drunk driver came by.
The pic you had up where you were sending Kevin's stuff, the vehicle, is what we were asking about. Okay, so I had, was it this video? Right there? Is that what you're talking about? Exactly, loosely tied. When you look at the crime scene photos, it just doesn't make sense. You know? I'm going to refer to another video that I have with Ellie stating, this is Corporal Duncan's statement.
South Carolina Highway Patrol mate with reference to a collision in Hampton County on Sandy Run Road. It is
Sorry.
a 2-lane roadway, level.
I just want to say I apologize for the music being so loud. It's because of copyright. I just wanted to make sure I covered for the copyright, that's all.
South Carolina Highway Patrol mate with reference to a collision in Hampton County on Sandy Run Road. It's a 2-lane roadway, level. Sight distance is not an issue. However, this collision occurred approximately at night, so visibility will be used with headlights only. There's no other ambient lighting in the area. As far as evidence here, there's only evidence of where the body was found. There's no car part, no any type of parts to a car or truck or any other vehicle. There is no body trauma other than to the head area. There is some scrapes and scratches on his left and right arm, on his knuckles, some across his face. It does not appear to be, in my opinion, struck by a vehicle, possibly something.
Is a murder mystery in South Carolina, the Low Country, involving 2 members of a prominent legal family.
So it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I know at country, in the country, I'm sure there's only lights every so often, and I'm sure it can be pretty dark in the middle of the night, 1 to 4 in the morning.
Say true country, there's no street lights pretty much anywhere. And it does get very dark. As someone that spends a lot of time in Amish country can attest.
Okay, so in the report, you have information referring to a hit and run crime. Actually, names being admitted to a hit and run crime. You have the pathologist reporting a hit and run. But you have evidence, you have LE throwing a fit with the pathologist that is labeling it a hit and run. Because in the report, I don't know how many times LE was sent out over and over and over and over to look over the crime scene to see if they found any evidence of a hit and run. Now, Duck and Felonies brought up a great point as well. Getting hit, able to walk some distance, but then wouldn't there be a blood trail? If you have a 7.25 inch gaping wound, would there not be a blood trail if you were struck by a vehicle and then continued to walk? LE walked that crime scene multiple times and found no evidence of a hit and run or any other sort. So although I think that's a great point that you brought up, Duncan, I don't know if it necessarily is consistent with this case, because I would assume there would have been a blood trail, and I assume that LE would have found that with the amount of times that they went to the crime scene, because there's got to be a blood trail leading up to where that took place. And with a 7.25 inch gaping wound, That's not the only spot that he would have pled. I understand. Was he placed there very quickly? I feel. Do I feel that something took place at that exact spot, like a hit and run? No. Do I feel that the injuries were caused by an object? Yes. Do I feel this house, this vacant property, has something to do with it? Yes. Like I said, 75% of all these theories make sense, and then there's 25% of each theory that is just like, okay, but it seems like it's something else. Report's very interesting. I'd think a blood trail would have happened exactly. I mean, we've seen the pictures. If you want to go back to one of the previous videos, I don't want to show it tonight. Or if you'd like me to send it to you in direct message, go ahead and reach out, and I can do it that way. But something just don't seem right. So you guys want me to go back to this? I'll play this whole video, and I'll see if I see. You say it's a green vehicle driving by? You couldn't imagine the amount of times that we read in the report of how many times they went out there to recheck. Talk to text is not your friend today. Maybe covered with other shirt, then removed once placed there. I mean, the injury is just horrific. I could definitely see how Ellie was certain it was a gunshot wound when they walked up to the crime scene, because it definitely looks like a gunshot wound at the crime scene.
Yeah, it does.
Not that he was brought there and left there. Like, it looks like it happened right there, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
SRB sent you a screenshot. Okay. Oh, okay. I think that's a Ford truck, but when we were on the Google Earth, okay, or Google Maps, let me drop him right there and see. Because I know it's right when I tried to get close to the location. So that must be the truck right there. So if I go here, let me see if I can get a better picture. Oh, there it is right there.
We can't see it.
Oh, here we go. I don't know why StreamYard does that. I hit click share and I have to hit it twice sometimes. I hate that. So there's the truck.
It could almost be a dark blue depending on how the light's hitting the camera.
Okay, so let me see. Let me go here and see if I get a different view of it. Okay, that's not. So let's go up here. See what kind of view. So it's either. This is the best one we have. Do you think it could have been a construction worker going to work that early in the morning, 4 in the morning?
I mean, anything's
Just
possible.
waking up?
Anything's possible, but why was Steven in the road to begin with? Because everyone says that's not where he would be.
Right. That's the 25%.
So that's why I'm thinking somebody was chasing him through the woods, and maybe he ran out to try to get away from him and came out right as a truck hit him. Or as a truck came by and ran into the truck.
Okay, well, that'll lead me to ask you this question. Why do you think he was walking instead of contacting his sister or telling Mark that he wasn't walking? Why wouldn't he have contacted his sister?
Maybe he tried, but Have you ever tried talking on the phone while running? Because it's
Well, I'm thinking maybe the phone was dead because when Ellie in the report it states when they showed up and tried to get into the phone at the scene that they couldn't power it on.
okay. That I wasn't sure about that. But yeah, so
So
maybe
his
when
phone
Mark
was
called him
dead.
that last time, it died when it disconnected. And like I say, if somebody's chasing you through the woods, that's part of the reason why I almost always have a Bluetooth on. Because if I ever need to be able to talk to somebody, I can do it, and I can still do everything else I need. Because like when I'm in the shop making stuff, I usually have a Bluetooth in my ear that I can make phone calls off of.
Right.
Mainly
Whoever
because,
cared,
but
mainly because what?
Mainly because if I ever get hurt, I can actually make a phone call and apply first aid at the same time if I need to, because I've had to do it in the past, which is never a fun day.
Yeah, he never called his sister. So that's what makes me wonder, why would he walk? But then this is what makes me think of, because when you look, let me get rid of these other waypoints on here, okay? And I want to show you the walking path from the vehicle to his residence. So let me remove these real quick. Okay. So if you're walking, that's where his vehicle was located. If you're walking through the woods even, right? Because it's going to take you... Here, let me get rid of this too. All right. You got two ways to go. You got an hour and 35 minutes, hour and 22. So if you go directly from here where the car's at and you walk through these woods right here, okay, you're going to cut out 20 minutes out of that walk. So really it would probably be about a little over an hour walk if you cut out the roundabout and go straight through the woods. So like what Pam was saying, did he walk through the cornfields, through the woods, and then somehow end up, whatever this path is? This is very interesting. See this path? So maybe he did walk through the cornfield, right? Hit this path, walked through this path, and then reached the road, started to walk down, and then that is where his body was found. So that would be him cutting through these woods, hitting that path, walking up here. So that would be like an hour walk. Well, Pam, they stated during the time that the crime took place that the corn and the trees, basically, not this picture here, but if it's the same trees, they've since cut down the trees, but they stated that this corn was already growing. It was already growing. So there was corn in all of these fields when the crime took place. We have Ellie stating that. That's why I have cover up in my title, because I felt it was a cover up from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But drops too. Yeah, I did tasseled when I was younger. I did tasseled corn. You definitely get muddy, especially when you have to be out there when it's raining, because it don't matter if it's raining, you got to be out there. The only time you stop is when it's lightning. And I want to say props to anybody that does that kind of work, because that's hard work. And the days are long. Yep. It's dirt and mushed up corn. That's right. And I'm telling you, them corn stalks get high too. And when you're
Oh, yeah.
talking July and August, that's the time when you're detasseling. That's the time when them corn stalks are high. And as soon as you walk 30, 40 feet into that cornfield as you're detasseling, unless you're on a hilly surface, you have no idea where you're at. And the only thing you can do is follow that row because you know it ends somewhere.
Yep.
Wow, cutting tobacco when you were younger. Interesting. And they sure are long, yes. I've played in them and got... Yeah, exactly. You got to wear gloves. Yeah. It's definitely hard work. Definitely. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could see how he was walking if his phone died. I could see why he'd be walking. Because like his mom stated, his sister stayed up. His sister was up all night in case he needed her. And I could see with the way that Mark was spam calling LE all the time. I could see him spam calling, because according to Mark, they're in a relationship. And you see how obsessive he gets. You see the anger. Just look in the report. Towards the end, Sandy Smith sent screenshots to the detectives. I just want to know why Officer Singletary stated he saw him in a white polo, because that's a lot different than a black Nike t-shirt.
And the picture you sent me was definitely a black t-shirt.
Yeah. Everywhere else in that report, it's a black shirt. Even the evidence that's admitted in the chain of custody is black t-shirt, khaki shorts, blue navy shoes. There's no mention of any white collar shirt until you get to page 98 in the 110-page report, and that's where you see Officer Singletary state that he showed up and observed him wearing a white polo shirt. It just doesn't make sense, even after reading this full report. So I could definitely see why they're going after the Sean and Patrick theory, because it's the only one that really makes sense, or the most sense, if you take out your personal knowledge and feelings of Randy and don't put that into consideration of that part of the investigation. Best tan I ever got, but it was backbreaking. Yeah, that's for sure. You got that farmer's tan. Who was Singleton work with? And that's a good question, and I was going to ask that too. I was also going to ask what kind of elections was Singletary up for, or Singleton up for? Because there's a lot of elections going on around that time too. It's something I was digging into, and I didn't dig into it too much, just because I was trying to focus on the facts of what we were going to be talking about, and I didn't want to go down another rabbit hole yet. But if you search it and you look it up, you look up Ernie Washington, you look up Aaron Presno, you look up people that are involved in the case, and you'll see that there was different kinds of elections going on the year prior, the year of, and the year after. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, go down that rabbit hole, and I'll have you on the show. Because that's going to take a lot. I'd love to have you on if you want to talk about it. What's up, Cassie? Thanks for hopping in. How are you?
Cassie!
Gardener snakes. Yeah. So it's like, what theory makes the most sense? What theory makes the most sense to you, man? If anybody else would like to hop up, you're more than welcome to.
Honestly, the deeper we get into this, the less I'm sure that I even have an opinion of what happened, because it's getting more and more confusing.
Exactly. Especially after this full report. Yeah, the next time you're at work, just listen to that or something, man. It's crazy. I appreciate you hopping in. Thanks for everybody that hopped in earlier this afternoon, too.
Sorry I had to dip out early.
Oh, you're good. I know you need your rest.
Caught up to me pretty hard.
Yeah, I know you need your rest. It's all good, man. I'm glad, and I appreciate you hopping in tonight, because I was excited to have you on tonight.
No, thank the dog. He's the one that woke me up about 45 minutes before you hit me up. I was actually like, okay, I'm going back to sleep. I haven't seen any notifications. Ping. What? Oh, CJ. Okay, I guess I should stay up.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I've been waiting the last couple of days to have you up. Liberty, and you are watching? Is she tired tonight? Is she a smiley baby? Yeah, if anybody would like to hop and share what you think, what theory, even if you want to type it in chat, what theory makes the most sense to you after this full report, after these conflicts of information, after the new stuff that we learned? Like, you look at each theory and you could be like, yeah, that makes sense, but then there's certain parts where it's like, no, it makes sense if it was this other theory. Nah, she's eating. Cute baby. Yeah, I just don't get it. So it'll be exciting. I'm going to have Suzanne Andrews back on the show this week at one of these nights. It's going to be exciting. And since we are talking about this, it passed the Senate subcommittee. So fingers crossed. The hate crime bill. Let me share these couple links. We got the GoFundMe. Let's see where this total's at. It's at 118,000. And I'll put the link in chat for that. You have two theories, Skittles. You want to hop up and share? And then I'm also going to put the hate crime bill up there. Thank you, Suzanne Andrews, for getting this kick started as well. And I'm going to share that link. And what a beautiful gesture. Started off with the GoFundMe to get the beautiful headstone that you see right here. And they had enough money where they were able to get the father's headstone as well. All from Suzanne Andrews. Thank you, Suzanne, for that. What's
Hello.
up, Skittles? How are
Hi.
you?
Okay,
So,
theory.
tell us.
One theory is maybe the Murdochs didn't want anyone knowing that their son was gay. So, because the family's got a big name in the town and everything, they decided because Paul was going to say something about it, they decided to kill him off before anyone knew about Mr. being gay. Second theory is about the one we were talking about his ex-boyfriend maybe being involved.
His what being involved? I'm sorry.
Sorry, Stephen Smith's ex-boyfriend maybe being involved, because why
Right.
is he calling the cops over and over again? That's sus in itself.
Well, do you think that him calling Ellie over and over again, because in the report it states on 7/13 he filed a police report for harassment for people from the Cayman Islands, and 7:14 and 7:15 is when he was repeatedly calling. 7:13 to 7:15 was when he was repeatedly calling Ellie, which is what you're talking about. So do
Well,
you?
how do we know? How do we know he's not lying about these people harassing him to make
That's
it look
true.
like? You know what I mean?
Right, to
Mm.
create a smokescreen. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because why would somebody from the Cayman Islands? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It just seems
Right.
a bit sus, that's all.
So what do you think about these two gentlemen that they're looking at right now?
Well, I mean, they seem to be pushing people away very fast, like people that could be suspects, if you know what I mean. But then you think about what that guy said about how he spewed after, telling the story. That's kind of sus as well.
For sure.
It's really getting quite confusing. But there are some very good theories, though, I do have to say.
Well, I appreciate that. And I thank you for sharing yours too, because honestly, the more, and like Kevin said a minute ago, the more we dig into this case, the more confusing it gets.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you start off in the beginning and you can go to our first episodes and it's like, yeah, it seems like Buster's the one. And then we start listening to these audio interviews and we're like, wait a minute.
It changes, eh?
Right. It could be this one. It could be this one. It could be this one.
Yeah.
Now you go off of the full report, which was released this week, and then all of a sudden there's talk about a green Jeep. There's a completely different conversation from Daryl, which is completely different than what we heard in any of the other 2.5 weeks that we've been digging into this case.
And also,
you find out that there's a white collar
oh,
shirt.
sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. And also, you know how like in this report it said he had a black T-shirt, Stephen Smith. Then it's changed to a white T-shirt, right? So what I'm thinking the same thing as everybody else, which they've been saying maybe somebody like they beat him up or whatever, and then they changed his T-shirt to the white one. It just seems more logical than 1 minute it's the black T-shirt, the next minute it's the white T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. A white polo, for that matter.
Yeah.
Completely different kind of shirt too.
Exactly. It just seems like somebody's changed his top.
Now, why do you think they changed the top, and who do you think might have done
I
that?
don't know why they changed the top. I have no idea. Maybe there was evidence on the T-shirt and they saw it and then changed it. I don't know. Yeah, or whoever it was, because there's many people that we thought could be that person.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know.
It's like all these theories, 75% of each one makes sense, and then you look at the other 25% and you're like, it doesn't fit. It does not fit. Why do you think Randy was so quick to help?
Well, that's when that theory that I thought about, the first one, about Buster being gay and they didn't want anyone to know, so they, you know what I mean? Maybe that could be it. I don't know.
Well, Ben had stated that he heard from multiple sources. It was a game of telephone. But Ben did an audio interview with Corporal Duncan, and he stated that there was 2 to 3 individuals, one white male, one black male, and Buster. So do you think that it was kind of a targeted attack where he was riding around with some friends and they were hitting mailboxes or something and came across him and decided to drive by and give him a good whack too?
I think that somebody was definitely after him. I just don't know exactly who, because there's many people, but somebody was after him. Because if he was running through those cornfields, not like he wasn't on the road, and he was running through those cornfields, it means somebody was after him, obviously.
Right.
Or maybe,
Right.
I can't say yes because I'm speculating, so.
And Lone Wolf, that's what we were talking about a little bit ago. we found out in the report that Officer Singleton reported noticing him with a white polo shirt on. And in any of these crime scenes, in the evidence, the chain of custody of the evidence, anything that is listed that has to refer to the clothing, a black t shirt was on. The only time you hear about a white collar shirt is page 98 of the full report that states, I, Detective Singleton, witnessed this. And I'll go right back to that real quick and I'll share it. It's page 98 on the report. And I'll go ahead and throw the link to the report in chat again in case anybody doesn't have it. Give me 1 second here. Okay, and then here's the link if you'd like it. And it states right here, I, Detective Singleton, went up to take a look at the body and noticed a slender-built white male on the highway with khaki shorts and a white polo shirt. The only individual, the only page on the report that refers to a shirt other than a black t-shirt. Did you know that Stephen's sister got pregnant by the sheriff after Stephen's death? Interesting, Pam. And thank you for joining, Lone. Buster had to be a show off in front of friend. So, what do you think's more probable, Skittles? Do you think it's the Buster theory, or do you think it's the theory of the hit and run when it comes to Sean and Patrick, or do you think Mark's involved? What to you sticks out the most as it being the one that you think needs to be investigated the most?
Really, to be honest, I think his ex needs to be investigated. I really do.
Which one?
Sorry, Stephen Smith. I really do. I just feel that there's too much of a coincidence. Like, first of all, okay, yes, he did a interview, but nobody rings up and rings up and rings up after the interview's done. They go, okay, I've done my interview. You know, I don't have to ring anymore or anything like that. They'll sort it out. That's how I see it. But I mean, that's just me. Everybody's got their own opinion to what actually happened, you know, which I do appreciate.
So Mark is very suspicious to you at this point then?
Yeah, at this point in time. At first I thought it was Buster, but now I've changed my thinking after hearing the report.
Because I think, you know, when it came to my Mark theory, this is what I thought. Okay. The mom had stated multiple times in multiple interviews, and good evening, Allison. Thanks for hopping in. The mom had stated multiple times in multiple interviews that there was a boat fishing trip that was coming up that weekend with a prominent person in the community, didn't say a name, didn't care to mention a name, just said it was an important person. Now, with your theory about Mark, okay, Skittles?
Yeah.
With your theory about Mark and how you feel about that, I applied that to my theory when it came to Mark's involvement in that theory. And that was telling me that he found out about the fishing trip, got jealous, probably knew what he was going to do before it took place. And so instead, hey, can you just meet me at the spot on the side of a country road real quick so we can meet and talk? And then when you get to the theory about him running through the woods, I think the assault started to take place where the car was parked.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Mark theory, I think he got jealous about the boating fishing trip and then wanted to take his anger out And that's where it started, which aligns with some of your theories about him being chased by somebody through the woods and through the corn.
I've got bloody goosebumps.
So I definitely,
think,
and this
yeah.
is what I started feeling last week when we went through this deep dive number 3 in the episode we
Mm.
did last week. That's when I started thinking what I was saying just now about the whole Mark thing. And it's crazy because now that we went through this report, we started to read and understand a lot more than we even knew before. He's even more suspicious. He even comes off more as an individual that would snap or crack
Yeah.
or commit some kind of crime, like what took place just based off of everything that we've read.
I think you're
So I
right.
appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate your theory.
I think he got in a jealous rage about him going, like you said, fishing trip. And it overpowered, the jealous rage overpowered him and he attacked as such.
Because, Stephen was the love of his life, according to his Facebook.
Exactly.
Even though
That's been-
Stephen had no involvement on his Facebook. Lone Wolf, I
Mm.
have my own copy of the autopsy report. Awesome.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome. I'm going to be talking about Flora Fire on Tuesday night with Silky Southern Tea and Jinx on this coming Tuesday. Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's what do you think about that, Kevin? And if anybody else would like to hop up and share their theory, you're more than welcome. What do you think? Which theory do you think, in your opinion, if you were Ellie, you would investigate out of all of those theories?
Like I said earlier, my gut says he was running through the woods after his phone died with the potential of somebody chasing him, and he happened to run out in front of a trunk that a guy was driving drunk in, and you get out fast enough in front of a drunk driver, you'll get nailed, and they might not even realize they hit you until a mile later if they're going fast enough.
So you think he was being chased and basically ran out the same time the person in a vehicle was driving by and was struck, and then basically, okay.
That's what my gut said pretty much the entire time, because I never once thought Buster had anything to do with it, unless the only thing I thought Buster might be involved in was actually Steven himself, because it sounded like they knew each other pretty well, and even if they weren't doing anything sexual, they were still could have been good friends, and in that particular area with his family, they might not be fond of the idea of, we might have someone gay in the family. But
so you're thinking Sean and Patrick is, so you think that, they're pretty much on the right path, and so you feel Mark is suspicious, but you don't feel he's necessarily connected as much as you did prior.
I wouldn't be shocked if they found out that Mark was the one chasing him through the woods, because it sounds to me like he's got some type of mental illness where he can have a fantasy and it becomes his whole reality, even though it's completely based on what he's hoping is happening.
Yeah, I think that too, about the fantasy thing.
And he might honestly not even realize, say they were able to prove that Mark was out chasing him that night, he might not even realize that that's what he was doing.
And Lone Wolf, what's the killer signature that you mentioned? Sorry if I miss it in chat. I'm still getting to it. His shoes, not a lot of damage to clothes, not more injuries to body. It's not consistent with hit and run, Kid Kitty states. Which is what all the LE is stating. Every single one of them. You got everybody except one person saying it was a hit and run.
With the way that they had asked about that question about if somebody took a baseball bat or something to it, that's why I'm wondering if somebody stole one of those blue street signs and that's where they got the paint from, because say they swung the sign on edge like a baseball bat when somebody drove by in a truck. Like, you're gonna slice them open. Then all you got to do is come to a slow stop so you don't leave skid marks, pick the sign up, and take off. That way you don't leave evidence which could potentially have fingerprints on it behind. Or a baseball bat or something like that. But yeah, maybe they were out being stupid kids and they stole a street sign, saw somebody they didn't like, and but that's the thing. I can get down so many different rabbit holes on this one that it's just like, I don't know.
Well, let me
And
look
it
at what
doesn't
a
help that
street sign looks like in Crocketville. Let's see what a street sign looks like.
It doesn't help that my dog's all over me like, I'm your friend, love me. So now he's gonna have to get harassed because that's what he gets when he gets this way.
All right, you got. Let's see. Let's see if I can get closer to that. Okay, that's not a very good. Let's see here.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be on that road. They could have been out somewhere else and took one earlier too.
All right, here's a street sign right here. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I figure. Yeah, of course it can be from any location. I figure why not look in the middle of where it took place and then can go from there.
Yeah.
To me it looks like black and white. But it is a very grainy image.
Yeah.
And this was blue. That was found. The head injury. No way he was hit by a car. No injuries from lower body. Exactly. It did. Every LE that we've had played their interviews, read their reports, every single one. Every single one. Now, Lone Wolf, you bring up a good point because this is what I also started to entertain. And thank you for bringing this up. I started to entertain what if it was a gunshot and the person, because you got to remember who did the autopsy? Remember who stated that there was no gunshot residue?
Yeah.
So could that be where, like Lone Wolf says, same type of injury? Like you look at the pictures, it looks like a gunshot wound. I can totally understand why Ellie shows up and says it's a gunshot wound. They think it's a gunshot wound until they find out the results from the autopsy and where it says there was no GSR. Then they started to question, well, could this be from a bat? Could this be from somebody driving by with a bat? So you bring up a very good point, Lone Wolf. Thank you. Because it very well could be a gunshot wound, but the evidence was altered. Mile markers are blue.
Yeah, we actually in some areas where I live, we actually do have blue street signs too. It's very uncommon, but there's a few places that do actually have blue street signs.
Enjoy your Yahtzee. So where's the bullet? Maybe it was picked up. Maybe it did.
Maybe the girl that did the sign off changed that out of there too.
That's true as well. Where are the pellets from the shotgun? Like I said, 75% makes sense of each theory, and then the other 25 is like, it doesn't.
Well, if it was gonna be a gunshot wound, because there was only an injury to one side of the head, you would need something that wouldn't go through the human skull, and that would be a small caliber, like a .22.
And I think that's what's going to be interesting about the new autopsy that they're going to perform, because they're going to be able to take a look at the skull. They're going to be able to take a look at the fractures, and it's going to tell them what took place.
Yeah, and hopefully, yeah. I just want to see closure on this because I'm getting tired of all the Just the sheer amount of drama around it. It's it's been going on for what 8-9 years now,
8 years,
and there's still nobody that's been held accountable for it because they wrote it off just due to sheer bad police work. I'm sorry, that's just, to me, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, no, you are right.
And I sincerely hope that once they get the closure for his family, that they go through and actually investigate whoever it was that just tried to brush this under the rug and hold all of those officers and people accountable as well for putting that family through 8 years of hell wondering what happened to their kid.
100%.
Because I'm sorry, but like all the negative law enforcement stuff you see in the media today, I understand it's 3% of law enforcement out there, but it's that 3% that makes all of them look like jerks. And it's situations like this that come down with the people that were guilty with 2 feet, show and start to make a stand for, people that aren't in law enforcement. I mean, granted, I'm fortunate to have a couple retired LE in the family, and they're 2 of the good ones. So I've grew up seeing the good side of LE, and I've heard horror stories of the bad. And all it takes is that 3% of the bad to make everyone have that tainted opinion of everybody else that wears the uniform. And I don't know. I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent and I could keep going, so I'm going to shut up now.
No, you're good, man. It's shit that needs to be said. And Pam says her first guess is in the beginning, Stephen was cutting through the woods, came across the boys in the woods, hog hunters with scopes on guns playing around, and shot him, placed him on the road. Interesting.
Yeah. One issue I have with that, though, the type of caliber you want to use for a hog would actually, you'd have an entry and exit wound through skull or most parts of the human body, because hogs are a lot tougher, so you use a much bigger caliber bullet for hunting hogs. And honestly, even most deer rifles are actually more powerful than what you need to go against a human. But from everything I've heard, it sounds like there's only one wound to the side of the head, and there's just, I could name off probably 4 or 5 calibers that could do it right now. But the thing is, I mean,
What do you think? What weapon do you think would have done that? Looking at this, at the photos,
honestly,
in your opinion,
just from my general knowledge, I'm wondering if they use something small like a 22 or something like that, because that would be enough to actually drop somebody in the right spot. Because the 22 caliber rifle or the 22 caliber cartridge kills more people in America than any other, mainly because people think of it as a toy. And the problem is, it's a great penetrator, but it doesn't have the power or the penetration ability to give a through and through. So if you fire a 22 and hit somebody in the head, it'll actually hit the other side of their skull and start bouncing around a little bit. Like they are devastating on the internal structures if you hit the right spot. And maybe to cover it up, they took a baseball bat and just whacked him right there where the bullet hole was. But the thing is, they should have found the bullet in the autopsy. They didn't, but
the autopsy sketch.
Yeah, and the person that performed the autopsy openly said, well, what do you want it to say?
Exactly.
So that right there tells me she's probably not thorough. She probably doesn't care. She's just there for the paycheck. And if she's willing to change that, who's to say she hasn't already changed something else because somebody wanted it to fit their narrative? And with the fact that how fast the Murdaughs were there, that's why I'm wondering if Stephen and Buster were actually friends, more than friends. Maybe they were dating. I don't know. But I really don't see Alec or Alex or whatever the heck their dad's name is. I don't see him being, oh, that's okay. It's an older traditional Southern town. They're not going to be very tolerant of anyone that's homosexual. You'd probably be extremely upset that my son's hanging out with this guy might be leaning this way. Well, we got to put a stop to this. And that's why they got there so fast, because maybe they put somebody up to finding them, or maybe through their friends, hey, whoever can take this dude out, here's a little extra money. Because taking it back to when his wife and son was killed, I don't think he pulled the trigger, but I would not be surprised to learn later on that he paid somebody to do it because he didn't have the balls to do it himself.
Right, and
That's
that's
my
why I
opinion.
think they need to. That's why I think they need to investigate. If anybody wants to go down a rabbit hole and bring it onto the show, look up all the elections that took place with the people that were involved with this case. Look at the elections the year prior, the year of, and the year after. I ran into it when I was doing some research. I couldn't go down the hole. I don't have the time to. If anybody wants to go down that hole and come up on and share it, please do, because I definitely feel that the reason that the autopsy was done the way it was, the statements that Kevin's making about his opinions, I definitely feel that these elections were involved. Lone Wolf says, based on my training and experience, a tire iron was the weapon. He was dumped there and killed somewhere else. The fishing trip was going to be with Paul, and Buster was the killer. So the evidence found at Alex's house would most likely be a gun, and that's the link to Stephen, possibly, Jink brings up, because that's what they stated 2 weeks after getting into the investigation of Maggie and Paul, is when they uncovered evidence that led them to reopen Stephen Smith's case. Ducking felonies 3%, maybe according to law enforcement. So you feel it's higher, I assume.
Well, it's just I forget there's an actual number. It's between 3 and 10% of all people are scumbags, and it applies everywhere. Law enforcement, factory workers, just anybody that you ever run into.
Just general.
Exactly. And I don't mean that that's crooked cops or anything. I mean the people that actually get into it with the intent to, I want to get away with as much as I can. I want to hurt people. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's all to make them feel better and to actually bring people down or cause people pain and suffering. That's all I mean by the 3%, because,
just as a general.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm sure it's the actual number of crooked cops is a lot higher than 3%, because, I know of some cities that if you get pulled over, if you leave $100 bill, or if you hand them $100 bill with your license, they'll go back to the cruiser, put the bill in their pocket, give you your ID back, and they won't even run your info. They just say, slow it down, have a good day. So, I'm not sure if that's still the case, but I know when I was younger, and I forget where exactly it was, but I heard about it through my, family that was in law enforcement. But, yeah, it's...
Allison says now he may have paid off the ME, but not to carry out the actual deed. He did that himself. Pam feels the same. He wouldn't have been offed if he said he'd pay and didn't. I'm just being a smart ass, Duckin. All love.
Yeah. I mean,
Kevin likes to do that too when he's fully awake. He's just chill mode right now because he's
actually, I'm pissed off mode right now.
Oh, you're pissed off mode?
Yeah. No, because hearing law enforcement corruption really gets me fired up.
Right.
But I'm also not like, I'm able to keep it under control. But yeah, I'm actually angry when I start talking about this, because I've actually seen people that this has happened to, and nobody did anything about it until like one of my family members actually found out about a situation that went on like this in her department, and she lost her mind. And fortunately, it was one of those, she has enough respect and enough clout when she was still active that people actually listened to her, and when they heard what was going, that guy actually got taken down. And by taken down, I mean arrested, charges pressed, and locked up. But several other people in the department knew about it, and nobody did a thing. And he's like, "Yeah, this ain't happening on my watch." But yeah.
Jinx says, I've got 2 family members in Ellie, and they have shared some horror stories.
Oh yeah, I could tell you. I could tell you stuff I've heard that it actually one of them actually cost me a fiance because it freaked me out that bad that I told her and she had to deal with something similar. And like a month later, she's just, I'm done, and gave me the rings back. I was like, oh, but
that's sad.
I've not had the greatest of luck in relationships.
You also need to look, Lone Wolf says, you also need to look at the pattern of deaths leading up to Paul's death. The gunshot to Paul's head was done out of hate and jealousy. Dre, my son was jump beat with a tire iron and left for dead in the middle of the road. It was horrific. Oh my gosh. So the pattern of deaths. Fill us in if you know, Lone Wolf. Regarding Allison says, I know some horror stories regarding Ellie. There's more corruption than most might think.
Yeah, the Ellie that my family was involved in, because they were both out of the same court, was actually a smaller area, so it might not be as extreme. But yeah, I've heard of a lot though. Part of why I hate getting pulled over now, because it's like, okay, am I getting a decent cop or am I getting a jerk cop? Fortunately, my local PD's fairly cool for the most part. But that's the joys of living in a small town.
Yeah, it's like a Cheers episode. Everybody knows your name, you know? That's why it's weird that Xavier states that he didn't even know a Murdaugh other than a female Murdaugh.
Maybe he meant personally, like that he could actually, like, chit chat with, and and if you saw her in a crowd, hey, how you doing?
I don't know. To me, when you listen to the audio interview, it seems like he's trying to distance himself as much as he possibly can.
Yeah.
Well, if they were as corrupt as we're finding out they are, maybe he was, because he knew about the corruption. And because maybe when they're talking to him, he didn't realize they were looking for a investigation on Stephen Smith, and maybe that they were looking into Murdaugh corruption.
Well, I mean, they all did, because whether it's the boat accident, whether it's this case, they all know the Murdaugh name, and they all know what they get away with. It's so obvious to everybody. You can hear in that boat accident, we're going to cover the Mallory Beach case at some point in the future, because I do want to spend a couple nights on it. But when you listen to her boyfriend talking to L.E. and you hear the audio, he says, good luck, when referring to Paul and the last name, and how they're not going to be able to do nothing about it because of the last name. Thanks all, I had to erase it.
Dre, that sucks. I'm sorry you had to deal with all that. Is he at least doing better now?
Yeah, prayers, Dre. And yeah, Lone Wolf, that case is going to be coming up soon. I know that. That trial. Or not the trial, but well, they're reinvestigating it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole nanny. But this
Was
is
that with
what's
the Murdoch
crazy. This
too?
is in Lone Wolf. This is what's crazy about these two cases. This case and that case, Lone Wolf, and everybody else as well. The attorneys, you have Stephen Smith's attorneys feeling it was a hit and run. You have the nanny's attorney feeling that she wasn't murdered.
Mm.
So with
Like the
with
police
both of
don't.
these cases, the attorneys are stating what is questionable.
Mm.
That almost makes me wonder if people are still afraid of the name, even though he's behind bars.
Well, yeah, I was
Well,
saying just because he's behind bars, you still have Randy out there. You still have other Murdaws out there.
that's true as well. Yeah.
Yeah, plus, who knows? I've heard of people that are in prison that can still call hits. They have their own little code that they can drop, and when the other person knows what they mean, they can go out and call it out for them. Or that might be some of the weird movies I watch. I honestly can't remember at the time or at the moment.
Well, Allison says they could have had a lot of evidence from the night Maggie and Paul were unalive. They treated Alec with kid gloves. They didn't even search his house till the next day. Kib Kitty says she lives 4 to 5 hours from there, and I heard of Murdaws and their powers. That guy can't say he's never heard of Murdaugh in the small town. Referring to Xavier.
Yeah. Definitely sounds like they ran that whole area.
SRB thinks, yeah, sure, he can still pull strings from behind bars. I mean, with the way, you got to imagine, with the way his knowledge of the law, and you don't think that he's going to try and flip that into some kind of godfathership in prison?
Yeah.
I can get you some help. You do me some favors.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what SRB says is it could be completely real. In Pam's opinion, John Marvin has to carry the family name, and SRB, absolutely he will. It's just a crazy case.
Yeah, it is.
And the more you get into it, the more confused you get, and they did that on purpose.
Absolutely.
Make you explore them all, and then find the ways that it just doesn't make sense, and you uncover it, and it's just like Allison Faye. I think the Murdaws are involved with the Stephen case. It's too coincidental that they waited till Alec was locked up to reopen the investigation. And Sled even admitted that they were waiting to reopen it, or mention that they were reopening it until the trial was done, because they felt if they waited until then that people would be more forthcoming to help them solve this crime.
Plus, it might also be that they didn't want to make it look like he was involved in more when he was already probably going to get indicted after he took the stand, or formally charged. I forget the right word, but because they don't want to give the ability for someone to say mistrial because you reopened this case, and now we have to retry everything again.
Plus, they also said they wanted to have more manpower to be able to focus on the case, and they knew that if they reopened the investigation when the trial was going on, that their manpower would be depleted because of the Murdaugh trial.
Yeah.
That was another reason they came out and stated. Good night,
That
Dre.
makes
Thank
sense,
you for
too.
hanging out. Yeah. It's They just don't make no sense. And I just still, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the attorneys know more than they would have to know, a hell of a lot more than we've figured out, but enough to really feel that it's a hit and run. I don't understand where they're coming from.
Me neither. And the case does need to be put to risk because it's been 8 long years of that family every year wondering what has happened to their son. You know, it's just, I mean, 8 years is a long time, you know, for a family that's grieving and wants to know the truth.
Mm-hmm. And not only feeling that way, Skittles, but also existing in an atmosphere where people continuously are talking about who done it, what done it, and there's nothing that's going on. You know that you're in an atmosphere where the name is powerful. You know you're in an, it's basically like you're claustrophobic, living in an atmosphere of claustrophobia. You can only breathe in your house because that's where your peace is at. But once you go outside, you're reminded you're existing. You have to exist in that and try and get answers for your son's murder.
Yeah, that must be hard, I think.
8 years, yes. I really hope this autopsy says something. I really hope that the truth, not necessarily the two people that they're looking at. I want the truth of who really committed these crimes. And like
Absolutely.
Grizz and Kevin and everybody else that mentioned in chat, every single person involved needs to be held accountable for this
Absolutely.
crime.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
That family deserves it, eh? They deserve justice.
Exactly. These people's job is to find the truth, to investigate murders. If they're not going to do their job, then, I would get fired from my job if I did it as poorly as they did theirs. They should be held to the same accountability.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to be a jerk like that, but at the same time, it's the truth.
That's the truth, yeah.
So
it's the truth, and I understand, because I feel you, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've worked countless jobs where I feel like I'm the only one that actually gives a crap about what's going on there, and it's like, come on, guys. But
I originally started this series and I didn't even plan on it being a series. I originally started this just for the Buster. We were talking Murdaws, and it was a connection that I knew that we never explored when we went through these Murdaugh videos about all these connections, and Stephen Smith always kept popping up, but there was never very much information, and we were focusing on all these other topics. And then when I wanted to do a show on the possible connection, that's when I started to realize what was going on, and that's what made me become so passionate about this case and why I've devoted and taken so much time and energy to this case, is because of realizing the type of corruption that took place and the crap that the mom has been living through. And when one of the first videos that we watched on that first show that we did about the Buster Stephen connection is when I ran into Suzanne Andrews on Law and Crime. She was on Law and Crime Network, and that's when we ran into her on the video and noticed that she was doing the GoFundMe. That video was like a year ago. Noticed she was doing the GoFundMe for the headstone. We saw 5-6 years later, he didn't even have a headstone. It was a plastic plaque that had his name, date of birth, and year of death, and then had a cat that was next to it that was even missing paint. Like, it was so sad.
That is sad.
And I reached out to Suzanne and I said, hey, if you'd ever like to be on, just let me know. I would love to talk to you about the GoFundMe and the headstone. I think it was a beautiful thing. And she was gracious enough to hop on our show.
That was a
And
really good interview too.
thank you. I appreciate that. And that's just what, it was just like, there is so many wrong things that are happening to this case. Nobody's talking about this crap. And I'm just going to dive into it. And so I appreciate all of you being along with me when it comes to doing all these episodes, because your information, your thoughts, your opinions, your articles, your videos, everything has contributed as this team effort to come up to where we're at today when it comes to this case. So I thank all of you. I appreciate it. It just don't make any sense. The right thing needs to happen. And I'm glad because there's a lot of people talking about it now, and I'm glad because it needs to be out there, because people don't need to be quiet. They need to speak up. They need to say what happened. Let's give this mother some peace. Not closure, because she doesn't believe in closure. She just wants answers and peace.
Yeah, she deserves answers, and the people that are guilty of not doing their job to find justice for Stephen need to be held accountable. I don't care what, if they're against the way he lived his life, who cares?
He still
You
needs
didn't do
justice.
your job. You need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
End of story.
Well, I want to show some more love for Suzanne Andrews. If you're on Twitter, you're checking out on replay, or you just hopped in and you're not following her, please shoot her a follow, retweet her tweets. Like, this stuff needs to be out there. The hate crime bill, it passed the Senate subcommittee. I'm excited when she's going to be on the show coming up this week. She's going to be talking about the stuff that's going on that she's doing in the Senate. It's not just the headstone that Suzanne is working on.
Isn't she back in that?
South Carolina. Yeah, she's trying to get this hate crime bill passed.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. She's the one putting in the work for that too. Like, she is really working her tail off, and it's just because she cares. There's no connection. There was no prior connection when it came to Stephen, the family, or anything. She was just doing this out of the kindness of her heart. She was the one that got the GoFundMe started for the headstone that you see in the picture. I mean, look at that thing. How many headstones do you see with an ocean, their picture, and then the word love with a heart written in sand? I mean, how many headstones do you see like that? Like, this is something that was amazing. So I can't wait to have her back on and highlight her.
Yeah, I appreciate her because, she gave him a headstone. So, it's so awesome of her. Yeah, she must have a really kind heart and awesome GoFundMe account as well to help, raise for that. I think that's awesome. And I do appreciate her too. And you too, CJ.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. She even told me earlier this afternoon when we were messaging that she closed down the GoFundMe that she had up before, and she was able to send Sandy Smith a $1,600 check, the remainder of what was left in the GoFundMe. Yeah. So it's, yeah. And it just upsets me because she's not getting the love and appreciation that she deserves, because you don't see her being on any of these new programs or these new notifications. You don't see her being included on any of these interviews or anything like that, And she is a very integral part of everything that took place and that has taken place.
It should be
And
noticed, so.
exactly. So if nobody else wants to highlight her efforts and show uh, the beautiful work and effort that she has put in just because she cares about another human being, then this show's gonna. And I appreciate that she gives us the opportunity to do that because I wanna highlight her. I've been watching this unfold in the background for the last few weeks, and it's just not right.
It's not right, no.
Yeah. I think everybody that was involved in hiding all this evidence is. Sorry, I'm still angry.
No, I
You're all right.
feel you.
I don't get
I
this
feel you
angry
because that's
often.
what made me so
and
passionate.
Yeah. If it wasn't raining, I'd go out to my wood shop.
Yeah.
And
What
that's
she's
true
done
too,
is
SRB.
beautiful.
She not only the things she's done, but she's also her friend. That's true, SRB.
So cool.
Yeah. So, it's just I don't know. Follow her on Twitter, retweet her tweets. When it comes to the Senate and stuff like that, hate crime bill. You don't have to be from South Carolina. You can sign it. They just want your signature. If you're from South Carolina, contact your local senators. Let them know how important it is. And hopefully everything that's taken place is finally going to happen because they're one of only 2 states that doesn't have a hate crime bill, them and
Which is
Wyoming.
ridiculous.
So maybe we should talk about Wyoming in a short half an hour part of a segment of some show, and then I'll make a small clip of that, and maybe Wyoming can get this thing done too because they need one just like South Carolina.
They should have it everywhere.
I agree. It's
A hate crime.
2023, people.
We just
Get with
saw
the program.
we just saw a hate crime take place in Nashville.
Oh yes, yeah.
What happened there? I missed that.
There was a transgender person who went in and shot 3 students and 3 teachers.
Oh, okay. I did hear about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the hate crimes exist. So why is
Absolutely.
there not a bill?
And
Why
it's
is there
not
not a
always
bill?
racial. It's not always racially driven either.
Yeah, it doesn't include or exclude. It's a hate crime, regardless
Yeah.
of what the crime is or what the hate is. It exists. So there should be a bill no matter what.
Yeah.
There should be a law, not a bill. Forget the bills.
Well, a law and a bill, really. I mean, yeah.
Well, there
Otherwise,
has
it's
to be a
just gonna
bill for
keep
the state.
going.
It went through it kept passing the House. It's just the Senate that kept blocking it. But it passed the Senate subcommittee, so it's on the right path. Just keep your fingers
Yeah.
crossed, say your prayers, just keep positive thoughts because the energy you create is the energy you make. So just stay positive about it, and hopefully the right thing will happen. Pam, I think so too. You get what you give in this life. What you put out always comes back full circle. Exactly. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out. I appreciate it. Thank you for all your thoughts and opinions. I mean, it's just what theory makes the most sense now? I don't know.
Quite mind blowing, actually, eh?
And it's nice. I appreciate everybody explaining their theories because there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different thoughts. And that's the beautiful thing about the atmosphere that I like to enjoy with everybody is everybody's opinions, our thoughts mean something. Always willing to explore, no matter how crazy it may seem, because it's all a puzzle piece. And maybe each one of us have that one piece that we can add to this big puzzle. And then it just makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
And thank you guys for being comfortable enough to be up on panel. Thank you guys for including your theories in chat. And I will be back tomorrow. Not sure about afternoon. I might, not sure. But definitely will be back tomorrow night. Not sure of the topic. If there's a certain topic you do want to cover, because I do want to cover something else. If there's a certain topic, go ahead and throw it in chat as the show's ending, or contact me through direct message and say, hey, what about this? And then I'll kind of collect all of the suggestions, and then we'll come up with something tomorrow night. But we'll be on something else tomorrow night, unless something breaking. I always have to say that, unless something breaking comes out, it'll kind of be left open for you guys. So just let me know. I'll be on 6 o'clock tomorrow Central, 7 Eastern. So I'll be on earlier than normal. And as far as I've been told the last 2 weeks, overtime is ending or has ended now. And so I'm going to try and be on at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern instead of the normal 7 Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, just to kind of be on a little bit earlier for everybody. And maybe have a little bit longer shows, or just end it a little earlier and have a little bit more time for myself. So thank you so much for hanging out, everybody. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a peaceful and positive evening. And like I said, send me your suggestions and we'll see what's up. I appreciate you guys.
Oh, thanks. See you guys later. Bye.
I was
See you
enjoying
later.
the awkward silence.
I know, I was too. It's like, yeah, this is neat.
I was like,
Tuesday.
"Oh,
Thank you, Skittles, for hopping up. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a recent sub too. You've been very supportive since you hopped in the channel. It means a lot to me.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I enjoy your channel very much. Thank you.
Don't forget, Tuesday, if you guys want to try and get some information for the Flora Fire case, go ahead and send me some of that too, because we're going to be having Silky Southern Tea and Jinx 13 on the show Tuesday night. We'll be talking about the Flora Fire.
I'll be there.
All right. And if you want to be up on panel, you're more than welcome to, Skittles. Let's
I'll
get
be
our
listening
research
'cause I'll
on.
be at work.
Let's get our research on. Maybe we'll do an intro tomorrow night on the Flora. Let me know what you think. Some of your suggestions. Good night, everybody. I appreciate you
good
so
night.
much.